You are now listening to the iWalter Show. Real talk about nothing.
Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Look, up in the sky, it's a bird brain, it's a plane, it's iWalter. Yes, it's iWalter, strange visitor from another planet who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. iWalter, who can change the course of mighty rivers, bend ears with his annoying voice, and who disguised as Walter Interranti, mild-mannered janitor for a great metropolitan newspaper, fights a never-ending battle for truth, nonsense, and the American way. And now, another exciting episode in the adventures of iWalter.
All right. Hey, this is Walter. Actually going to do another show tonight. It's funny because I always think I won't get enough, stuff to talk about story-wise. And I have a wide variety of stuff. I've already, maxed out my top of my thing on Safari for, stories on my Mac. But, yeah, I mean, that's a good thing. Don't get me wrong. It's just it makes it more kind of tedious for me to do. My show prep, I got it down to 30 minutes, and I could kind of quickly put stories up that I found. What was I going to mention? There's a lot of stuff. I'm actually, again, this is going to be my Thursday show. Unfortunately, today, yesterday, I called twice. This psychologist I was supposed to call that my job is make me get a psych evaluation to determine what they're going to do with me with my job. And it's like, hey, listen, I'll do this because the job I have, you're not going to get paid as well as I do now. So the last thing I want to do is lose my job. So I called this place. They were, I don't know who recommended it to me. I assumed it was my excuse me, I'm hitching my ear, and I have my headset on, so I have to put it back on. My present doctor, I'm seeing a doctor just for stress and stuff. He had recommended somebody else because apparently he can't evaluate me the proper way that my job wants me to. And, I'm getting great benefits, excellent pay. The job, if people, at my job do what they're supposed to do, it would be a very easy job to do for what you're getting paid. I'm not going to even get paid. I'll get paid less than half of what I do now at any other job and not have the benefits I have now. And not, it could be a stress-free job. So I called and I never got a response back. So I'm giving the person I was supposed to call, who was, let me look up her name because, hey, I have no problem with a person who doesn't return my calls. So this is an issue I have. And I hate to say it's generally, I'm not trying to be sexist, but it's usually with women. You call them, people are supposed to be professionals, and it ends up being like, they act like you're asking them out for a date. And it's like, no. Trust me, I am doing this because I need my job, and I need to make sure I have a job. So I have one, but I want to make sure I continue to have one. Anyway, I got this Post-it note over on the side here. I'm going to look at it real quick, so you're going to hear a pause. Alrighty. This doctor I'm supposed to see, her name is Dr. Deborah. I can't look at the last name. Hold on one moment. Kesnick. And, I called. I even said, hey, here's 2 different phone numbers. You can't reach me at the one, which would be my cell phone. You can always leave a voicemail. You can call me at the other one. And she never bothered to call back on either one. And trust me, I've had this issue in the past. And, I've had it with both men and women as far as people who call themselves professionals and are really not. But honestly, it gets more complicated with women where they constantly think that you're trying to hit on them, even though you're trying to do something to keep, yourself in a job. I've had this issue from years ago when I worked probably even at Intel in a roundabout way. To me, it it's not professional, and it's actually very annoying. So I will see. I'm giving, though, this psychologist the benefit of the doubt. I'm just going to assume, they keep on scaring people on the news right now, especially. I'm going to move my mic down, see if I can adjust it. You hear that noise? Okay, hopefully it didn't go over too loud. I don't think it did, because I can actually hear myself right now with my headset on, what it's going to sound like the final thing. Yeah, what was I going to say? They've been, scaring everybody on the East Coast about this big, large snowstorm. So I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt that maybe she's just holding off on patients, because I looked her up on the internet, did a Google search, and they said, oh, yeah, one thing, they said she's looking for new patients, new clientele, so to speak. And it's like, okay, well, here I am, I'm calling, I said it's on behalf of my job, I need to get an evaluation. This place claims they do it, and then you don't call back. So to me, that's not professional either way. But again, I'm just going to give her the benefit of the doubt that maybe the reason she did not was because, everybody's got this scare tactic that we're going to have. If you hear this every single time, the East Coast is going to be buried under snow. They're saying like 10 feet or something ridiculous like that. And generally it ends up being a dusting or 2 or 3 inches. On a rare occasion you get like 6, but they always make it like, yeah, you're going to get 12 feet of snow. They make something up really ridiculous just to scare people. And it works. That would be one job I'd actually like. I know my one boss years ago, I've said this a million times to other people, probably even on my show, where my one boss, his name was Tom Gulick, he said, if I ever had any type of job, the best job I would love to have would be a newscaster, because it's the only one you can, basically be wrong, X amount of times and you still have a job. Like you can't, even though you make mistakes, it's not going to cost you your job. So, and it's true. I know, the whole job of being a forecaster, a meteorologist, is just guesstimation at the best, but these are major screw-ups most of the times, and with the technology we have nowadays, you should be a little bit more accurate, not scaring people. And not, unfortunately, also weather is just not predictable to begin with, and they try to make predictions weeks in advance sometimes, and it's just ridiculous. Well, that is. Anyway, I didn't put these in any order like I normally don't on stuff. So I'm going to read this. This one, actually, I found like 20 articles even after I was reading on after the show was trying to get round up last night. I found some extra stories I figured I'd just throw in the mix, and I found more. Today it was like, again, 20 or 30 more articles. So I found this one article right away, 965 amp cbslocal.com, and it was about Leonardo DiCaprio. Now he's going to, he's done a lot of films, but he's going to do one where he's going to play some famous serial killer named H.A. Holmes, which I've never heard of at all. And, it even says in this article, everybody heard about Ted Bundy, John Wayne Gacy, Jeffrey Dahmer, but they never heard of H.A. Holmes, and I've never definitely heard of him. It says that he admitted to killing 27 women in the time surrounding 1893 World's Fair in Chicago. But they say experts believe he killed over 200 victims. So, again, I never heard of him. So, hey, that's cool. Finally, I guess Leonardo DiCaprio is getting acknowledged for, one of his films. He's done a lot of good films, and more than just that one he's done recently. He's also, back in the day, he did this one called Gilbert Grape, I think. It was really good. Obviously, he did Titanic, and he got shot down. Nothing for that. He's done many different films over the years, and he's never got acknowledged for anything he has done. So, finally, he's finally getting some type of a break. So that's good. I'm trying to think. But yeah, I saw that one. I looked it up. Don't have the information in front of me about that. Actually, it was funny last night. After I was done my show, I was telling people about this movie I saw on Netflix. Now I can't remember the name of it again. Oh, it was called Contracted. So I'm going to look it up real. And I thought it was really good. It didn't get the greatest ratings. I think it got really underscored as a movie. And it was like, the only reason I finally watched it, though, was because they made a sequel to it called Contracted Phase 2. Now, they got all the same actors back, and they basically picked up from the couple minutes before the end of the first movie, and you know, they kind of reshot a couple scenes. They added a little bit here and there, but right away I knew the film was not going to be that great. Generally, sequels are not that good. This one was horrible, even though they got everybody and they picked up characters that got contaminated or picked up the disease that the main actress had in the original one. But the original one obviously could have been shot on high definition, I guess, video to make it look like film later on. I don't know, but it definitely looked like it was shot on film at least. The second one looked like it was just shot on high definition video, and they left it at that. That's usually a bad sign for a movie that's, a little bit like, technically it was an independent film, but probably a little bit higher. I'm looking at the original screenplay, said it was by Eric England, so I'm curious now about who did the second one. Yeah, I'm trying to look. This is United States. It came out July 5th, 2015. Yeah, actually the second one was written also by Eric England. So he did do both. He basically followed precisely the very last scene a couple minutes before and then continued the film. Personally, I think he could have done a better job. The first one was really good with that actress and the people they had, and the main actress died at the very end, and it's picked it up from there. But she was, by that point, a full-blown zombie. It had its moments in the second one, but it did not compare anything to the first one, personally, of Contracted. I felt kind of like it was a waste of my time to watch it. I was kind of like disappointed, and the way it made you think, at least for me, the first one, it was kind of giving you a foresight besides what Romero did in the past about what would happen and where did they, the zombie apocalypse start. George Romero's was trying to use the scare tactic, because back late 60s and actually before that, the 50s and 60s, the big scare was everything about nuclear, using about nuclear waste. I guess The Walking Dead, they never really give I don't really watch it, definite answer where it comes from. There's other movies that give their perspective of what the whole, the zombie takeover would come from. But I actually kind of like this one because it was called Contracted, because they're leading that disease basically started as a sexual transmitted disease that started this theory on zombies, where they come from. And I actually kind of like that, because that would be actually more kind of, even though it's been around for who knows how long, basically, what do you call it, HDDs, or what do you call that, different types of sexually, what is it, STDs, sexually transmitted diseases. That's always been like a big thing. Because it actually says that there, STDs. That perspective of like, okay, we've had AIDS, herpes, other venereal disease, all sexually transmitted. why not just incorporate, and the way they led you believe in the first one, because they actually brought back the main guy who first, what do you call it, contaminated or, basically spread this or started this disease going, which was some guy who worked at a mortuary and who had basically intercourse with a dead cadaver. So, the way they left it in the first one to me was that by him basically having, random sex with a John Doe or Jane Doe, whatever he had put on his penis, apparently when he had basically date raped this girl randomly at this party, it just basically started, a zombie apocalypse. And that was cool. But then, the same guy who directed the first one, it says he wrote the screenplay, I think, for both. It was more just, okay, where are we going to go with this? Well, it's like you have, could have left to go at one movie. They probably gave him a decent amount of money to make a sequel, even though it was going right to video. But I think he could have probably taken it definitely a different direction. Because the direction I saw with the film was, this was, like I called it yesterday, patient zero with the main actress, who, you want to pinpoint it with the Walking Dead series. You could have pinpointed it with this movie of how it got started. Now, it's kind of funny because, I think in this sequel to the Walking Dead TV series, they kind of insinuated that, that was one pinpoint or one section that this outbreak on zombies started in California, according to the sequel TV show, which I think I only watched the pilot, so I can't really say much. So it would kind of fit into Contracted, because Contracted actually was in California, which was kind of funny. In the sequel, for some reason, it led me to believe they might have shot in Vancouver, because one of the actresses they got, she definitely had a distinctive, and I'm not even joking, a distinctive Canadian accent with her words. Because there's that joke how Canadians pronounce certain words, people from Canada, and she definitely, about, I think it is, certain words they say, and it's kind of funny hearing me say it because it's just got a different twist and slang, even though it's English. And this one actress had a really heavy, I've never heard one that strong before, a really heavy Canadian accent. And it was some actress who played a detective. And it was just funny listener, because I know Kevin Smith made that movie called Tusk. And, the one, that was supposed to be taking place in Canada. And, he made a lot of Canadian jokes because he likes a lot of the Canadian television shows. There's that one, it's been on for years, but about a bunch of teenagers in certain high school. I can't remember. Degrassi. And it kind of reminded me, Degrassi, they don't have those strong Canadian accents, even though it is in Canada. But Kevin Smith just likes that whole atmosphere of, of Canada. And with that one actress, it was just was this really shot in California? Because that one actress just kind of threw me off, or with the sequel, or was it really shot in California? But I looked it up. I looked, at the very end, the credits, they said it was shot in California. Has nothing to do with anything. I just thought it was interesting. So, and it was funny, actually, because I put that down for quite a few months. I've been out of work for 4 months, and, had time to kind of finish off some TV shows that I started watching that I really liked. And for some reason, I just decided not to. One was actually Ghost Whisperer. And it was funny because I start watching shows, and I get to the point, I either watch them all the way through, if it's, when the series is over, or there's actually some shows I just can't get through because, I try to marathon them just to get them out of the way. But if they're on for 5 or 6, 7 years, you get to the point like, listen, I can't. I've like overindulged myself on this show. So, Ghost Whisperers was actually one of them. I mean, there were certain shows I got through. I had no problem on the same line. Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I did that when I first started at Merck. Sorry, I'm thinking of the place where I get my medicine from. No, the place I was working, and I just marathon because I worked like second shift at this one job I had, and it was like, wow, the show's really good. It was on every night when I got home, and I heard a lot about it from friends, and then I finally watched it, and it was like, yeah, it's really cool. And I basically just ended up buying the series, and couldn't get enough of it. I watched actually the spin-off shows too, which one was actually called Angel, and then I really got into Josh Whedon stuff, so I started to watch other things. But I actually got through all of Buffy, all of Angel, and some of his other shows that he did. There was like 2 other shows he did, Dollhouse, and that one where Serenity was one of the movies out of the TV show. Farscape, no, that was a different show. There was some other show he did. I just couldn't get into it. It got canceled right away, so I figured it'd be easy to get through. I just couldn't get into it. I'll probably pick that up later. Another one was, which I never thought I was going to like, but I ended up really liking a lot, was that show Charmed. Personally, I liked the first 3 seasons, I think it was, when they had, I can't remember her name, which she actually, they had to get rid of her because conflict of interest into actors. And I always get her name wrong, but I'm trying to look for it. God, they don't even put her in the credits anymore. They have her picture up. Just because, Shannon Doherty, I think it is. I love her. I heard she's a real pistol to work with, though. But, yeah, I just, as an actress, especially on Charmed, I think she was the one, personally, I think she made the show what it was. She was definitely one person in particular that, just made it, because she's definitely, it's kind of obvious she's into the whole science fiction or comic book stuff. So, 'cause she did Kevin Smith's one film, and I didn't put her that way. Like, I didn't know she was really into comics, but it's kind of obvious. Yeah, she kind of is. So it was just appropriate for her to be in a show like Charmed, because I think she kind of tried to take over writing some of the doing some of the direction on the show, and she added that whole comic book superhero feel to the show. But the problem was the other actresses and actors on the show, apparently I've heard, can't get along with her, which, that's always the thing. I mean, there's certain people, I guess, they might be like, excellent actors, or, what do you call it? Like, just probably really smart on whatever they do, whatever their craft is, no puns intended. But they're just really, really hard to work with, and I've heard that. Now, I was supposed to see her one year down in Philly at this WizardCon. I bought a ticket because my main thing was I just wanted to see her, and she canceled out. And the guy who runs these WizardCons basically apologized to each individual who bought these tickets to see her and said, oh, she's a very nice person. But I've heard from different people she's not. So, but I just personally, I think she's a good actress. I mean, I've never had to deal with, her, I guess what people would consider her shenanigans, but she does put on a good performance. She's a good actress, to say the least. Anyway, it was funny. I saw this last night, and this was after I was done my show. It was from the dailymail.com, and I couldn't believe what I was reading. It kind of just supports my point that seems like at this point, it's beyond beating a dead horse with me. Just complaining about how, there's a double standard between men and women, and, the whole racist card thing is a different one that just goes too far. But this one, I don't know where to put it, but it's definitely one on, a woman getting the upper hand, or, a woman getting the upper hand. It was on the dailymail.com, and it just really got me, to say the least, it got me really angry. It said student 22 who stabbed a man in the eye with basically a stiletto heel so hard that he had to pull it out. He had to pull it out, avoids jail time. So basically what this girl did, there was a conflict between some guy who was technically, in my opinion, he was the victim. I mean, I know the guy was, according to the story, was probably being an asshole. He was arguing with somebody, and she stepped in this girl in the story, who wasn't originally part of this argument, trying to, quote-unquote, defend her friend. So she had taken her stiletto heels off, and she forces it in the guy's eye. So she basically gets a sentence, but she's not serving, any time, very little probation. She's basically on the whole time that she's supposed to get, which was 18 months jail time. The whole entire thing has been brought down to 18 months probation as well. So, I mean, it just, and she looks like one of those Kardashian girls. I'm not even kidding. If you look at the profile shots, the best way you can describe her, she looks like that Kim Kardashian. And she's getting away with putting a stiletto heel in a guy's eye, probably because of what she looks like. I mean, that's the only way I can put it. Her name is Sinead Omar, 22, attacked Justin Lloyd after he argued with her friend. These are the bullet points. Student stabbed him in the eye. It says student stabbed him in the eye with her designer, basically a stiletto heel. Mr. Lloyd was forced to pull the stiletto heel from his eye, but did not lose his eyesight. So he was very lucky. And Omar pleaded guilty to unlawful wounding, but given a suspended sentence. So, I mean, I think that's just really ridiculous. If you want to read it, I just was fully disgusted. I read it, and the whole story is just about basically, this happened in England, obviously, making up excuses for, that, again, I've said this a million times, that the victim becomes the criminal and the criminal becomes the victim. It's just a reverse story. And this girl they're showing pictures. She's just walking around like nothing happened. Like she was victimized. And they completely, basically dismiss what she did. She's like, again, it said somewhere in her, she got like a 22-month sentence, basically doing community service, but she's not having to do any of this stuff. And the guy who's the victim said he's still in a lot of pain. Like he can, he has a lot of pain because she forced, a stiletto heel into his eye. But thank God it missed any vital signs. But, he's in a lot of pain now. Yeah, it says they basically gave her 18 months imprisonment, but suspended for 2 years. And suspended for 2 years. But it's all probation, so she's not going to serve any time behind bars or doing any community service time. It's all been wrapped down to, okay, yeah, we're going to throw you a 2-year sentence, but you're not going to serve any of it. Yeah, it says she must also complete 6 months of unpaid community work and supervision, as well as pay basically a $1,000 fine. Victim fee. I mean, that's just ridiculous. So I read this stuff, and then you just kind of got to tell yourself, how do people get away with this? How they get away with it. If you're like a very attractive woman or somebody who can just basically call, I hate to say it. I mean, God forbid me, but, you used the ACE card. I guess they call it, or basically cry racism in some form of the word, most likely people are too afraid to go against that. And if you're a very attractive woman, you get away with stuff. How would you like it if you were the person who got a stiletto heel stuck in your eye? So, it just really, really kind of really upset me with that one. You know what? It did open up for me the way I wanted it to, so I don't know if I'll find it later on. There was a story I actually had a state. I forget which state it is now. It doesn't really say. New regulations mean that adults. This was a different story, but didn't really open up the way I wanted it to. 33,000 food stamp recipients are set to lose their benefits. Roughly. Oh, it was in Arizona. Residents face the prospect of losing their food stamps on April 1st. Well, they don't tell you that the people that are losing it are people that are, basically people who can work, but don't want to work. So they're forcing them to, Clinton did this years ago, and he made it that you had to, President Clinton at the time, you had to work, do some kind of community service, or, have some job at least. Or taking a job rehabilitation course or something in order to collect any benefits. And then that was taken out by Obama. So it says the new rule, adults between 18 and 49 must work. The new regulations mean that adults between 18 to 49 who are not caring for a child and do not have a disability must work a minimum of 20 hours per week. So, it just basically says 2/3 of these impacted in Arizona are in a Maricopa County and Maricopa County. These regulations changed for them changed for them on January 1st, but continue to receive food stamps for 3 more months. Officials point out there are exceptions: student, pregnant women, adults enrolled in training programs, and those participating in drug alcohol treatment programs are exempted from the new rule. Food banks are not happy. It says that food banks have pointed out that it's very difficult to inform everyone ahead of time about the change because many food stamp recipients move homes regularly or are homeless. Now, I really feel bad for people who are homeless, but I hate to tell you, we have a lot of them, Wawa supermarkets around our house, and, I hate to say it, there's people who come in that are well-dressed and everything, and they go in there, and you know what they buy on, like, these food stamp cards or these EBT cards? They're buying, like, Cheetos and stuff. There's no way to exempt that stuff. It's only supposed to be staple foods, but they buy junk food with those. And any money they get from other sources, they use to buy cigarettes or other things. And we're the ones having to pay for all this shit. So that really pisses me off. Despite the criticism, this is happening. Do you support kicking 33,000 people off of food stamps? Yeah, actually I do. I have no complaint on that one. I have some really interesting stories I found. This one was from ReaganCoalition.com. I might have mentioned this yesterday, so I might be repeating myself. I don't know if I read the whole thing. I won't, though. Here's a video that will finally derail Hillary must-see documentary. I was trying to watch it, but I'm trying to see the length of it. I think it was like an hour and a half or 2 hours. I'm trying to see right now. It's an hour and 41 minutes, so yeah, it's close to 2 hours. It basically says, I don't know what else to tell somebody after watching this shocking video. It's not even a video. It's a documentary on Clinton crimes syndicated. If you watch it and you still vote for her, you are absolutely serving Satan with an exclamation point is what it says. There are hundreds of witnesses for these scandals of drug running, murders, cover-ups, financial frauds, and so much more. If you don't wake up by listening to the regular people who lived through the Clinton crimes in Arkansas, then you might as well serve Satan himself again. We have a real chance to stop Clinton this time. It says this time the internet is here, and we can share this video throughout the planet in the weeks until the primaries start. Do your best. So I put it up again myself. Let's take back our country with Trump and ensure this creature gets destroyed in the primaries so she can eventually be arrested for her criminal past. So I've heard a lot of stuff about Hillary Clinton, and unfortunately it does just, except for a few. I heard on Rush today that, some of Hillary's largest believers in her are like starting to derail from her. And one was, I was actually shocked, is the girl from that TV show called Girls, who is a real big lefty, and she's actually starting to wise up. Oh yeah, Lena Durham. She's actually supposedly Lena Durham is actually wise enough. She's realized now that we don't want to support Hillary because, and they're jumping ship and going over to what do you call it, the other guy, I can't remember his name. God, he's on the news. Let me see the two running for there's only two right now. Yeah, I'm trying to look. So I apologize. There's two front runners right now. It's not Sanders, is it? One guy's really old, and he just seems to be. Let's see. Because I actually got something on him, and he's front running 63% over Hillary's only got 33% or less. Which Bernie Sanders, Bernie Sanders is basically mopping the floor with her right now, and it's just we don't know how he's able to do that, but he is. It's just because people are some of them are starting to wise up. Like I said, Lena Dorman's actually one of them. I hate to put this next, but it is up. So let's see what that was. Technically, I'm going to say it is the 20th right now at this present time, but by the time I'm done, it's going to be Thursday morning. So while I can still say it, I'll just do both. Happy birthday to Tom Baker, who turns 82 today, or happy belated birthday for those who listen to my show once I'm actually completed it. So yeah, Tom Baker is still the most popular Doctor Who. And, he's the longest running Doctor Who to date still. So that was another thing. I was trying to think because I got shot down the other day about Doctor Who, and this new producer for the show, he also does, which I'm not always thrilled with, because he just seems to entice lesbians, women, and homosexuals. I know lesbians and homosexuals, but I mean male homosexuals. Was the guy who does Sherlock and Doctor Who. He's trying to prove he's obviously a big leftist. I mean, it's in England, and I tolerated it for so long. When he even decided on who was going to be the new Doctor Who, which was Peter Capaldi, the very first episode they took one of the old villains, which was these things called the Silurians, and they made the Silurians were basically all male actors, and he decided to change it to all. Well, there was basically one left, or there was a couple in some of the episodes he did, but either way, he decided to change them to all females from all males, and then he made the main Silurian that he brought back, this actress who played a Silurian in the newer episodes of Doctor Who, which I don't know if she is in real life, but he made sure to make her a lesbian. So there you go. He knocked two birds out with that. Then he did on certain shows where when the male Time Lords would regenerate, they would regenerate into black female Time Lords. So, everything that made Doctor Who what it was back in the past, what I like to call it like sacred ground, has been basically cindered by this man, this new director who somebody actually wrote they can't wait till he leaves, or producer. Look up his name, because I'm beginning not to like. Well, I started not liking him more and more. So I'm going to look up his name, and he's getting to the point he wants to leave anyway. It's like, dude, well, I'll give you a kick in the ass. Stephen Moffat, he has just really destroyed that show. I mean, I thought he was going in the right direction, kind of making it look a little old school. He's actually even admitted, it's like, dude, you're the one who makes these shows. But he's actually admitted, he says, I actually enjoy watching the older shows more so than the newer ones. It's like, but you're making them, and then you're admitting that you don't like the new ones as much as you like the old ones. Well, guess what? Don't make this crap and you won't have this problem. I've said this before. So, yeah, it's just, though, at this point, it just, the lesbian Silurian was just, to me, that was too much. Some other crap he's done. And he changed the Master from, a male Time Lord to a female Time Lord. And that really pissed me off. Basically because, I've always been a big fan of the Master. It was a great villain. It was old school. It was supposed to look like that sinister one. Villain that you would see back years ago when you're a kid. Well, actually, before I was even born. The best way I can describe it is the sinister villain who would basically get the damsel in distress and tie her to the railroad and, hope she would get run over by a train. Well, that's the way the Master looked. And I wasn't ever a really big fan of John Pertwee, who his son actually obviously plays on. He plays the butler on the new Gotham show, but I have a more of appreciation now than I ever did on John Pertwee nowadays. Because at the time, I thought his shows, personally, I thought they were, the way that John Pertwee, his script was written, it was very sexist, and I'll admit to that. And it got to the point sometimes it's like, I can't watch this. This is really annoying. There was only one actress I liked John Pertwee with, and the character, I can't remember the actress's real name, was Liz Shaw, and that was his first season, and even she was kind of put down as being, she couldn't do it more than one season because she's Caroline Ford, because I had the hots for her. That was that was actually 1970. But she actually said I just couldn't wear, I got tired of wearing the short skirts and have to follow in the footsteps of, the Doctor. But she actually, I think John Pertwee kind of appreciated it because that actress who played Liz Shaw, Caroline Ford, the character at least still was talking to him and not up to him. Like, her character is actually on an equal level as far as communication and intelligence. And I really appreciated that. And when she said, I could only deal with it for one season, I was heavily disappointed when she did not come back. So, and she said she just didn't want to be basically I guess in so many words or less, she didn't want to be the character in the short skirt. But, back 1970, she was really attractive, but she was also very intelligent. I'm looking now, and they definitely have one that she's got it was an episode where she played in Alter Ego. Actually, I think that was just basically made up. It's not really her, because I was going to say. But there is one she plays in Alter Ego, and, but probably in that one, yeah, she wore a short skirt. But most of the time they put her in short skirts But you know what? The thing that impressed me more than that definitely helped, was the fact that she sounded like she had a brain in her head. She was a very intelligent woman. And, when they went from her to the second companion for John Pertwee, Joe Grant was the character. I can't remember that actress's real name. Oh, yeah, Katie Manning. Katie Manning might have been a really good actress, but she didn't seem bothered playing the stupid, mindless, blonde-haired companion that had no brains in her head and would get him a cup of coffee, or and basically just act like her lapdog. That really bothered me. That actually really bothered me. Now, Katie Mann and Joe Grant had some episodes that she kind of stepped up to plate and didn't act like the little, like a stupid idiot. The character, I mean, not the actress. And but maybe she obviously didn't mind it, because there was a big thing years ago where she actually did a nude photo shoot for some British equivalent of Playboy, and she's like totally nude and she's like posing with a dialect. So the actress who played Liz Shaw, which I already forgot her name. I got to look that up again. You would never see her do anything like that. So, but she was, Caroline. It says Caroline John. So she's on this one. It's going by her married name, I guess. But yeah, the character Caroline John. Then I'll just say that. She, she was sexy, but she, didn't degrade herself on her acting. She was like a very good actress. And, when you have somebody who's like, she was really sexy, hot, and had a brain in her head, it just made it that much more appealing to watch. Now, unfortunately, she was only in technically three episodes, and all three of those were like 7-part episodes, but they were all like really good. And she was definitely one actress I really liked. She did an excellent job with the character, like I said. So I wish she would have done it longer. Anyway, I went off on one of my little things because, hey, it's Doctor Who. What do you expect? So trying to get my mouth a little bit closer to the mic so I can get heard better. So, making sure I'm getting levels too. Let me adjust this a little bit more, the mic, and see. But yeah, the new Doctor Who, this guy's all about being politically correct. Now, I guess one of the other reasons I brought up John Pertwee, there was a lot of people that were more noticeable, you could see it, that were definitely left-wingers on Doctor Who when John Pertwee was. One I always bring up over and over again was this particular episode called The Green Death. That was directly, a left-wing political stated episode. There was other ones too, but that one really just kind of pounded in your head on, politics on the left side. And, it wasn't like, it was not a bad episode. I kind of just overlooked that because it was about unions and basically the left side policies on, in England on things. But, a lot of stuff I just overlooked. And it was a really, it was good. But, the thing was, though, now this new director, he's just really just trying to pound into people's heads that, being politically correct way too much. So let me see. I got to look up his name again, 'cause I try to forget his name. I really do. It'll come to me. Stephen Moffat. He's just gone way too far, and he's actually done that in Sherlock, which was a really good show to start out with. But the main villain, Professor Moriarty that was written in the books of Sherlock Holmes, he deliberately made that character seem like he was gay, in many aspects of the word. So it's just like you're taking classic story text and you're trying to make them politically correct. You're changing male characters into female characters. You're changing, and these are like stories from years ago. I mean, let's see when Sherlock was written. But you're taking these and you're just changing them into a politically correct statement. And that's not what it's all about. I'm just looking at the dates for Sherlock Holmes. It just comes up now with Sherlock because of the popularity of that. Yeah, I'm just trying to look when Sherlock Holmes was originally written by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. I understand it's a fictional character, but you got to pay respect for the people who wrote this stuff and not do your own thing. That's just the way I am. Well, it says born. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle was born in 1859, and he died July 7th, 1930. So, hey, if the thing that made, basically the stories of Sherlock Holmes so popular was that, it's that British prim and proper, feel to it. And, also, I think that's, in my opinion, I think that's probably whoever came up with, because I can't remember his name, James Bond probably kind of touched upon a little bit of, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's character. So I'm trying to see who wrote James Bond. Because I'm so bad with that too. I'm drawing a blank. Oh, okay, Ian Fleming. So, but the thing that makes those things popular for the last, if you're talking Sir Arthur Conan Doyle or Ian Fleming, what makes those stories popular 100 years after the fact? Actually, over 100 years after the fact. For the one at least. Well, it's because you haven't changed anything that much. You keep it, close to home and the way it was originally designed to, be represented by these characters. But now changing the character base by making one homosexual, one a lesbian, one a black female, just to appease a very small percentage in the general public. That's not the way you do things. And that going back to what I originally started with Tom Baker, he made that joke one time years ago. He says, yeah, the next Doctor Who after I leave is going to be a female. Well, what do you call it now? Moffat said he's going to actually do that. He said he's actually going to go that far. He says it's going to be not me just saying that. It's not going to be just hearsay. It's going to actually really happen. And it's like, okay, you're really you're crazy. He's nuts. And it just sounds like he's a real lefty, in my opinion. Let me just make sure I got his name right. He's actually wrote there's Stephen Moffat. He's actually wrote quite a bit. He wrote some episodes, even back when they brought Doctor Who back. And every time I saw his name, as a writer on the show, it was like, okay, this episode is going to be really bad. And it generally was. They weren't that great of episodes. They were really kind of weak, in my opinion. So, I mean, some of the decisions he made as director or producer were pretty cool, but he's done a lot of shit, too. He's done a pretty good job with Sherlock up to this point, but then it kind of has been falling really flat because of him trying to be so politically correct. I mean, I don't know what he's trying, his motive is to just be so politically correct and push push things with television shows so far to the left, but it's just gotten to me. I even said, I wrote on a bulletin board, I said, well, if he makes the next Doctor Who, a female, I'll stop watching. And somebody asked me, why is that? And I hate to say it, most likely because I know I have people I know I can't say it, and I can't mention the name because I can't prove it, but it's kind of obvious. Certain people who respond to my post on Facebook, one looks, obviously they are transgender. People who would attack me would be either that status, gay, or like one of these really left-wing liberals. And it's like, you know what? Whatever floats your boat, I'm not going to stop you. But when you start pounding, on my toes or my fingers, like saying, this is not right, why do you think that way? Then you're going to ask for an argument. And that's just the end of statement with that one. So, but yeah, I think one person who might have commented might have been a particular person who commented that they didn't agree with what I disagreed with. It's one of those things. I think my one friend, Matt, made a joke before. He said, because I've heard this statement before, even the person I think might have been a transgender person who did not like that I don't agree with making Doctor Who into a female, especially after 50 years of being played by a male actor. I'd just like to tell that person, let's just agree to disagree. That joke that I think my friend Matt said before. And that would be one of these times. I mean, my one friend Matt would say, yeah, it's just a show. Yeah, it is, but it's something I enjoy. I've enjoyed pretty much all my life. It's helped me through when I was a teenager and a kid. It was like basically the parent keeping me, when I was going pretty much off the deep end of sanity. So, you always don't forget whatever was your life, what do you call it? I want to say life preserver, or the thing that saved me from, like, even when I was sinking down deep, that was the only thing that kept me a little grounded in humanity and not being completely insane. And I'm talking, I was like 12 years old. So when I'm 48, so you can do the math. So I'll do it right now, in fact. I'll be 49. So 49 minus 12. Yeah, I've been watching it for 37 years in a row. So, yeah. Oh, by the way, technically, it's not going to be true for long, but a year from today, or at least I will say when people listen to this show, a year from yesterday, to be precise, because it will be that way by the time I put the show up, was when I actually got to talk to Kevin Smith, one-on-one. And the man gave me a hug, so he liked what I had to say. Not a gay hug, but it was a hug. And we bullshitted for a while, so it was pretty cool. But, yeah, the thing with Doctor Who, though, is when the show was originally written, because I've done enough, history on Doctor Who back when I was 12 years old and 15 and 16 and 17. That show was originally designed, as a children's show that was supposed to be educational. It was supposed to be a space filler for kids between, during tea time in England or something like that. But originally, the people who originally came up with Doctor Who wanted it to be an elderly man with his granddaughter. That the elderly man was picked, the male figure was picked for younger viewers, which the show was originally designed for children, to be able to cling to a grandfather figure. Somebody, that, when you're a little kid, you go to your grandfather and you sit on his lap and he tells you stories. So, unfortunately, though, William Hartnell at the time, even though he looked like he was in his 70s, was actually only in his mid-50s. But the point was, that character was designed to be a male figure for children. Now, all of a sudden, they got to bring politics into it even more so in the new series with Stephen Moffat, and say that we need to, we got to be what do you call it? We have to be politically correct on a children's show that was designed originally for kids, with a grandfather figure in charge of the show, which was William Hartnell. That's all been washed away, and we have to make him flamboyant, basically fooling around with younger girls. And now we need to make him a female figure, and we have to incorporate and force children to understand, and people who watch the show, that lesbians, homosexuals, and black females take precedence over anybody else's outlook on this show. That's like number one, and it's not even like being suggested, it's actually being forced on you to think that way. Like, you should think that these people come before you do. So they've actually done not only a 180, but they've also become a show that is more offensive and actually more discriminatory than the way the show was ever designed to be. It was never meant to be any of that stuff. Now it is. Now it really is. So that's that's my point. I have to kind of dig down deep into that. This show, you destroyed this show beyond the point of recognition, and now you're forcing people to not, if they like it or not, they're going to force down your throat that you need to accept lesbians, homosexuals, and that, if you're a little kid and you don't know any better, because it also does definitely number one amount of number one viewers are 12 and under probably, even though you got a lot of adults like myself who watch it, who you're forcing down their throats that you're going to see that white males now can turn in, that are aliens, can turn into black females, and that females dictate everything to males. Like, males have no say in anything. I mean, that's what this show is generating in people's heads. So what is that going to tell this community of young viewers? It's going to kind of really brainwash your mind. I mean, the show had a simple, wholesome feel to it originally. It was meant for little kids. I mean, what if you changed Mr. Rogers into Mrs. Rogers? And I actually thought in this way, too. Hey, if you want to change history, not even just television shows, but you just want to change history in general, because eventually that's the direction these producers and directors are going, why don't you get like trying to think, because I want to be really sarcastic with this one. Why don't you get Bruce Willis to play in Malcolm X, or play the character of Martin Luther King if they make another movie about Martin Luther King's history of like how he got shot. Why don't you just pick Bruce Willis or Tom Hanks to play the part? Or what do you call it? The guy who plays on How I Met Your Mother. Sorry, I'm sorry. Neil Patrick Harris. There's a perfect one. I think that it would only be fair that, because we live in a politically correct time, you should get Neil Patrick Harris to play Malcolm X, or what do you call it? Martin Luther King. He should play that character, because we live in a politically correct time. So he's gay, and he's a homosexual, and he plays heterosexual. Why can't he play Martin Luther King? Because isn't that racist if you don't allow him to do that? And what I'll hear is, well, that's not fair because Martin Luther King was a black man. Well, you're trying to put change history the way it was written, or even fictional stories. You change them, they change everyone into a black person or a lesbian or a homosexual. So isn't that fair? Can't you do the same thing with these historical figures? Because I'm going by what you're teaching this generation of kids. So it's only fair that you should be able to do that too. So I'm going to I think they should sign a petition for that. They should get Neil Patrick Harris to play in a movie based upon Martin Luther King, and he should play Martin Luther King. I think it's only fair because, otherwise I'd find it very offensive and very racist. Is it any different than what I'm hearing now from people? No, not at all. So anyway, I'm going to let that drop now. Anyway, there was a thing, if you want to see it, it was like 2 years ago now where that ship got capsized, whatever, under the water, that big luxury liner, Costa Concordia or whatever it was. So somebody put up on Igor. Let me just spell it out because I can't obviously pronounce it. It's MIGUR.com, and they're showing 2 years later that luxury liner that got capsized underwater, what it looks like. Like it basically got hit by what do you call that? Those monsoons or whatever you call. I'm not even using the right word. It says the Costa Concordia, 2 years after being partially submerged, and it shows pictures. They're really cool pictures, but it is still basically just like what do you call it? I'm trying to think. Not mold and mildew and whatever you got from the sea. Like it's still like a mess. Like there's still water in the hallways of this this luxury liner. It's amazing. 2 years later, it's still a mess. And basically it's they can't do anything about it. And it was a humongous ship. So it's just a shame that the whole thing is was a big pile of rubble. So anyway, there was another one from ReaganCoalition.com that I pulled up, and it says, eye-opening why liberals won't talk about white poverty-stricken rural Americans. It was another interesting article I found yesterday. This story you will never find in the mainstream media, which is true. What seldom gets talked about, and when it's often with, it says it looks like, inadvertent humor and contempt, is the poverty of rural America, partially rural white America, and particularly rural white America, Appalachia, the Ozarks, and the Mississippi Delta, the Caucasus, and the Rio Grande Valley, and it says the Cotton Belt. If you spend more time amongst the coastal liberals, it's not unusual to hear derating remarks made about poor middle Americans basically slip out of the mouths that are otherwise forthcoming about the injustices of poverty and inequality. See, this is another thing I'm saying. It's always about minorities, but you never hear a thing about, basically poverty-stricken white folks. And this is what this is about. And it says, yet since the 1950s, Americans living in the non-metropolitan counties have had a higher rate of poverty than those living in the metropolitan areas. According to the 2013 American Community Survey, the poverty rate among rural dwelling Americans is 3% higher than amongst the urban dwellers. In the South, the poorest regions of the country, the rural-urban discrepancy is the greatest, around 8% higher than non-metro areas it says in non-metro areas than metro areas. So, and it says, watch here as the Levy Holston 22 explains what Obama's shutdown of the coal industry has done to his community. So, he talks a good speech, Obama, but, he's basically lying about a lot. So, Holston's youth spent Holston's was. Actually, I'd just say go to this page. It's ReaganCoalition.com and look at this story called "Eye-Opening: Why Liberals Won't Talk About White Poverty-Stricken Rural America." And yeah, I mean, I saw a little bit of this firsthand when I was down south a couple years ago in Covington, Georgia, where you could see some of the worst of the worst poverty-stricken people. And they always try to say that it's, minority groups, but it's not. It's actually white Americans, probably just as much, if not more. It says in one part, it says from 2007 to 2012, West Virginia's annual coal production dropped 31.7 million tons annually, fallen over 20% from 165.7 million to 120.5 million. Over half of that decline, 17.9 million tons, came from Boone County, which until 2012 had long been the state top producer. I'm just kind of randomly picking some spots out of here. I won't pick any more because it just probably won't make my point very clear. But yeah, if you go by what the liberals say, and the left wing, obviously same thing. And, they're always pushing that it's the minorities that are suffering so much, or these migrants, which weren't even part of our country to begin with, or, whatever. There's a quote right here. I'm going to look and see if it's worth reading. I'll just read it out loud either way. For better or worse, says Prout, when we talk about poverty, we focus on black poverty. We focus on Hispanic poverty. We've collapsed our nation's poverty problem into our nation's racism problem, and it leads us to turn a blind eye to rural poverty. So you can read more on this one if you'd like to. But yeah, there again, it was exactly what I just said. They place a blind eye that, it's always with this minority group. Well, what about the white minorities in this country that are living on the streets, or in these other parts of our country who could barely feed themselves or their families? You don't hear about that because that won't support, I don't know how else to put it, but Obama's coalition against white America. That's basically what it is. So anyway, there was a lot from this ReaganCoalition.com page. There's another one. Video Muslim female professor teaches that rape is an acceptable form of humiliation. It's acceptable. And this is from some Muslim female professor. That's exactly what it says. This is from CP. It was a CP report in a September 12, 2014 FATA shows. Al Turar, professor of theology, Suwaid Salah, discussed the Islamic concept that those whom you own. Speaking of Hyatt TV professor, Salah said that Muslims who capture women in a legitimate war against their enemies may own them and have sex with them as slave girls. I kind of messed it up, but you get the gist, I think. And there's a quote: in order to humiliate them, the professor, this is a professor who's a Muslim professor, female professor, says Professor Salah said they become the property, again, a quote, of the army commander or of a Muslim. And he can have sex with them just like he has sex with his wives. And it doesn't say wife, but wives. And there's a video that goes along with this. Again, these are all in the Reagan Coalition. So this is what you support around the globe. These left wackos are people like her who say, yeah, it's all right if your Muslim brother wants to rape you. That's quite all right. No, it's not. For a little bit of our country that's still left, yeah, we should not support people like that. We shouldn't even acknowledge them, people like that, and we should not give them money as we are now. So there is one on the Daily Mail, some story I found, and of all places, it came out of Philadelphia. Terror on Philadelphia subway as knife man pushes a woman onto the tracks, yelling, "Kill, kill, kill," in an unprovoked attack in Philadelphia once again. This was like 2 days ago. Kenneth Grims, 33, has been arrested and charged with aggravated assault. Police say he attacked a 27-year-old woman in Philadelphia on Sunday, pushed her onto the tracks while holding a knife and shouting, "Kill." Cops say, that's the statement from the cops. The woman crawled to safety, and Grims was arrested after spitting on cops. So I'm just curious if this was one of these provoked Muslim attacks, somebody who believes in it. I'm not saying he's a Muslim. I'm just wondering, because why else would this guy just randomly push an innocent woman onto the train tracks down in Philadelphia? And I know the train system down in Philly. I've been down there before. So this guy just randomly did this. They're not going into a lot of details. Obviously, they can't, or they won't, I should say. So that was that made the Daily UK, by the way. This one, I just don't understand it, but I found this article last night. It was on American News. Teenager asked to leave fitness gym because her tank top was making others too uncomfortable. They show some pictures. I assume she had like spandex pants on, but her top is like a loose fitted top. And you know what that's all about. Basically, they're saying that she was too fit, is what I'm gathering. I'll try to read a little bit of this. She's like too fit to be in there, and it's just making other people uncomfortable because, why is this girl who's obviously athletically, physically fit in here working out? It's not fair to us people that are basically fat and sloppy, is the way I'll put it. So it got a lot of likes. This is no joke, this article. It was actually originally posted back last year in October, but it got resurfaced because I didn't kind of dig for this one. I just found it on Facebook recently. It says a teenager was working out at a Planet Fitness gym when the female employee told her that her outfit was making others uncomfortable. Allison Roth, 17, was given 2 opinions: cover up or leave. So, I don't understand it because I can't even figure out why why was dressed offensively. I can't begin to imagine why. I'm not even kidding. It's funny. Is she related to Brandon Roth? Roth, who says she was working out in her tank top, was upset by the situation. She left the Waterford Township gym and has since canceled her membership. She has stated that she has never been informed of any dress code policy when she signed up for the gym membership. Now, I know people, that's just a given. In this particular situation, she doesn't look like she's wearing, because I'll be the first one to admit to that she's wearing anything that offensive. But I'll see girls, walking in and out of these fitness centers. And if I'm around a Planet Fitness, because there's, they're in shopping centers, that they generally do wear like spandex and halter tops because they are there not to work out. They're there to pick up guys. But this is one case I have to defend this girl. And yeah, she was just there to work out. It's obvious. So I feel bad for her. So I'm just giving both sides of my story. And there's a quote. She says, "This obviously isn't a judgment-free zone, and I'd like to spend my money elsewhere." Ross said the chain, which ironically enough, boasts judgment-free zone is its slogan, which obviously she just had proven that they don't abide by what they say or, practice what they preach. It says news of the story spread quickly. Within 24 hours, the story had generated nearly 2,000 comments on Fox to Facebook page. Most of the commentators agreed with Roth, stating that the tank top covered her appropriately and she shouldn't have received any negative attention for wearing it. And it's true. You can't see anything with the tank top she has on. It's like basically wearing a dress over top. You know, it's baggy and it's long. Michael Bloomquist, owner of the Powerhouse Gym in Clinton Township, took it upon himself to remedy the situation by offering her a lifetime membership to the gym. Roth will have access to the gym at any time, as well as the freedom to participate in any of the classes offered at the gym. And there's a quote that says, "I truly believe in a judgment-free zone when you work out. I don't care if you give me 80 years, if you're 80 years old or 17 years old, you should be able to wear what you want and enjoy what you're doing," and recap the benefits of the health fitness, Bloomquist said. So obviously they got caught with their pants down and they're trying to cover it up. Now, the thing is, I don't have a problem with the way people dress. I've said this before. My problem is, personally, is when they make a big deal of, why are you looking at me? And I'm not talking about gaunting or stalking. I'm just talking about, you know, if a girl is dressed that she's looking like she's basically, you know, wearing skin-tight clothes. Not that this girl has been. And obviously it's going to draw a lot of attention to yourself. Then, you know, that comes with the territory that you have placed upon yourself. And it's kind of funny because, you know, it just made me think. My one friend, I don't want to mention his name, my one friend, just for the protection of him, he told me years ago he worked at this place, I think it was called U.S. Healthcare. And he said that, and I believe him, you know, I truly believe him. I don't think he's making this up. There's no reason to think that he would. But years ago, he said there was a girl that basically, she slept with, she said, everyone from every department, every male at the company. She said everyone except him. And he even pulled her aside one time. And he says, like, listen, you got to watch yourself because you could get hurt. You know, being the, you know, chivalrous guy that he can be, my one friend. Or, you know, you're going to get yourself like some type of disease or something else. And she right away just had taken it like, and she had a reputation throughout this U.S. healthcare place of sleeping literally with whole departments of men. Like, she went down the line, and my friend said he was the only one. He was the only one she would sleep with, and she ended up getting herself pregnant one time, and she gave up the kid for adoption. He says, thank God for that, because she also had mental health issues. And it was like, you know what? I've been down that road many of times with women, and he said she went out of her way for, he doesn't know why she did it, and I've been in that boat too before myself, where she went out of her way until she successfully got him fired, making up stories for every guy she slept with, which was literally about 90% of the company. And she obviously did get herself pregnant and put up a kid for adoption. She accused my friend of harassing him, or harassing her, like stalking him, harassing her. And he said she wouldn't give up until she finally got him fired. And he said it was the best thing that ever happened. He said, I could have had a career at the job, but he said, I'm glad I didn't, because, you know, I met a lot of different people from getting fired, but that wasn't even the part that did get to me. Because, you know, it's one of those, I've been there, had that happen to me, and it's not fun. But again, there's that double standard. He said she actually got a married man who was sexually involved with her, and she was not married. So she was fooling around with every man at this place called U.S. Healthcare, including a married man who was a supervisor, who literally came up to my friend and threatened his life. Like, literally threatened his life. And he said the guy was my size. My friend's taller than I am. I'm like 5'5.5". He's like 5'8", 5'9". I don't know, something. No, he's like 6 foot tall. And he said, no offense to me, but he said, the guy was your height and your built. And he said, the guy threatened me. And he said, because this girl turned everyone at the company male-wise. And that's that whole thing that I always talk about. You know, women have the upper hand, and they will turn men against men. I've seen it when I worked at this one place called the Train Store in the past, in some stores where when you had all men, you didn't have a problem. You put women in the equation, they will turn men against each other in a heartbeat, just because men just think with their small head and not their big head. And anyway, he said he was like waiting for this guy to call him out and not make the verbal threats at work, but outside of work. He said, I would have floored the guy. And it's like, dude, I would have done the same thing. But how does this fit in the mix? Women use sex as a weapon against other men. They use it to manipulate people, and it's not always the case. But sure enough, there's more times than less that is the absolute truth. Now, there's, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of, well, actually, I could say a handful of women that I actually truly have a lot of respect for, that I hold on a very high pedestal. But the ones who, basically, as my friend would put it, not saying that's true for everyone, to act like, in layman's term, like a tramp. I have no respect for people like that. I actually worked at this place years ago. It was called WHYY. And there was a girl there who was exactly like my friend had at his job at U.S. Healthcare. Well, this girl slept with every guy that was not tied down to the floor. And she had severe scars all over her face and her body. And she treated me like I was a piece of dirt at the store. She treated me like I was stalking her and everything like that. Well, lo and behold, she showed up on the news, and apparently two of the guys she was fooling around with didn't appreciate, and they found out, I guess, about each other, and they found her body in multiple pieces. I think it was in Bridgeport or something like that. Like, she was all basically butchered up, and probably beyond recognition. And they caught the guys. But the point is, that goes by that saying, the biblical saying that, Christ himself had said, he who lives by the sword shall die by the sword. Now, what does it happen to do? Bottom line is, I don't have respect for people who degrade others or try to make them a scapegoat, which I did get that wrong the other day. I mentioned about a scapegoat, and I realized that after I was done the show of what a scapegoat was and how it fits into the Bible. So I might look that up real quick for the heck of it. Okay, it's a scapegoat. In the Bible, a goat was sent into the wilderness after the Jewish chief priest had symbolically laid the sins of the people upon it. So that is what a scapegoat is by definition. And, or a scapegoat is a person or animal which takes on the sins of others or is unfairly blamed for problems. See, this is what I always say, and that's what I wanted to just clarify. When I say that I'm the scapegoat, yeah, I am a lot of times. And I said I'm not the only one. There's individuals like myself who become the scapegoat. Like my one friend, I won't mention his name. He was a scapegoat. He was set up to take the fall and to help with this woman who just basically had, at this place called U.S. Healthcare, had sex with every individual. The concept comes originally from Leviticus, in which a goat is designated to be cast into the desert with the sins of the community. So, scapegoating is a big thing, I think, especially nowadays. And I think it's going on personally, even in politics. Personally, I think that they're trying to make Trump into a scapegoat just so the Democrats can get their way. But, I mean, some of the stuff I've heard on the news lately about what's going on the Democratic side and the situation with Obama. Some of the stuff like the Fast and Furious program they had a couple years ago on his first term, and how they just covered all that up. The people who got killed under the watch of not only Obama, but presidential-elect of Hillary Clinton, and the denials, the email account scandal. I mean, it just goes on and on and on, and they just look for other people to throw under the bus or make into scapegoats. It's just really, really depressing. Anyway, I found this story from the Daily Mail, and it's not any more promising, but it says, the disgusting moments an animal handler in Thailand threatens to punch a baby elephant and yanks painfully on its ears and smiles about the shock and abuse. So it just never ends with these stories of abuse. Now, I didn't put that in my mix. There's one story where some guy, like, tape ducked a cat, like, bound the cat, like, its legs, arms, and everything, put duct tape all over this cat and threw it in his duffel bag. And he got caught. I don't know how, and I'm sorry, I don't think I have that story in my mix. I don't even know where I saw it anymore. It was yesterday or the day before now that I saw that. So that would be because technically it's going to be Thursday in a few minutes, so it would have been Tuesday night. Anyway, that it says threatened to punch the baby elephant and yanks painfully on its ears and smiles about it. It says Charlie Costin filmed the incident at Damon Satsak Elephant Village. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. The Australian tourist was disgusted to watch the elephant's treatment. Reports have surfaced. The staff member was fired over the incident. Well, at least something came out of it. But that doesn't take back the way that elephant was treated. Vision has attracted 500,000 views and outrage from the animal activists. So they actually got this on video, too. Somebody filmed, like, this person seriously assaulting a baby elephant. So, that's just, I just don't know where these people come from that are like this. Now, here's another one for the left, by the way, that, they're not going to learn anything from this, especially the ones who try to, entice that, the inequality between gays, women, and other minority groups. But this was from ReaganCoalition.com. And here's the people that you support, lefties. ISIS releases shocking photos of their new torture methods for gays. And this is beyond horrific. So they got videos, and it's all written with that whatever language they have. And it says from CT, the same liberal hypocrites who chastise conservatives for opposing gay marriage seem awfully quiet about the Islamic Stage group having posted pictures showing a homosexual man in Iraq being executed for simply being gay. So there you go. I said it in a mouthful. The exact date of the murder remains unknown, but according to the UK Daily Mail, the man was accused of being a homosexual and then subjected to the Sharia court trial, much like Santa was 1 month ago. Muslims view homosexuals as apostates. So, not surprisingly, the homosexual man lost a trial and was soon after sentenced to die. They basically throw him off the top of a building. Militants then led the man up the stairs of a tall building, covered his eyes with blindfolds, bound his hands with restraints, and then shoved him off the roof of a large, crowded civilians as civilians watched. So, you know what? This goes back to what I even said, because you're getting more of these migrants in our country. And I mentioned about, like, these two different, homosexual young guys that work at these restaurants, basically two different types of restaurants. That behavior that they give of being arrogant and pompous. They can get away with it so far in this country, but you continue, because I'm sure they will, you continue to believe in the left and vote for those, left-wing Democrats, and they continue to let these migrants in the country, and you might find yourself also on top one of these buildings and wondering why you ever believed in them. But by that time, it's going to be too late anyway. But hey, you know better than I do. You're so much more intelligent than I am. And, I'm the one who's the creep and the hypocrite. But you're going to find out the hard way that those people you trust in are going to basically bound and gag you, blindfold you, and throw you to your death, or probably even just chop your head off. So it's really great to think so open-mindedly. Unfortunately, such disciplable murders occur quite frequently in the Middle East, where any devastation from the fundamental Islamic law known as Sharia is treated with the harshest of punishment. Now, compare this to the treatment of homosexual men and women receive in the United States. Liberals think that the persecution if a Christian baker doesn't want to make a cake for a gay wedding. So, there is a big difference there. Nobody seems to see it. They just continue to fight against the Republicans. Sorry about that Freudian slip, if that was one. It says, yet in the eyes of some liberals, those conservatives who oppose these homosexual lifestyles and gay marriage are just as evil as militants who murder gays. The lack of logic is flabbergasting, not to mention a complete insult to many homosexual victims of the Islamic State group. And I agree with that. These people don't ask to die. They just live in a situation that is completely out of their control. The people in our country have a say. People in England have a say, but they are so tied into believing that the conservative parties of both these countries are the one at wrong, which is completely, a delusional way of thinking. Even more insulting is the fact that liberals will continue to ignore gruesome murders like this because in their twisted minds, appearing Muslims is far more important than fighting for human rights. So here I am. I'm a conservative who does believe in true equality, and you got these left-wing liberals who are basically not practicing when they preach and are complete fucking hypocrites. So anyway, it goes on to say their hypocrisy is despicable, though also very typical for people whose priorities are as backwards as a hat. So, there's another one I just can't stand. There's backwards hats with those stickers on them. I think that's what my analogy is. Please share this story on Facebook and Twitter and let us know what you think about this, the refusal by liberals to address the murder of gay men by Islamic State group militants. I'm fighting this every day, and nobody ever hears me about this. I'm very upset about that. Daily UK Mail had a story, shocking moment. Journalists filming conditions at Kalalas Jungle are robbed at knife point by migrants they were trying to help. So there you go. Again, this has got to be, there's some documentary they must have been making with these migrants, and the migrants rob the freaking film crew. Like they beat them up and stuff. It's this Dutch filmmaker, Maraki Inglis, was making a documentary in Kalalas Jungle. It says she was filming when her colleague, Tenu Vutin, was attacked by migrants. 3 young men armed with knives and pepper spray tried to steal the camera. The pair saved when other migrants came to rescue and ran the attackers off. So you see, there's another double standard even in this story. oh, well, the good migrants help fight off the evil migrants. It's like, well, you know what? They're in the mix. So you got to kind of, you can't separate these people because they are so interwove with the ones that may be harmless that you're really just taking everybody's life, you're putting everybody's life in jeopardy with those whole shenanigans. So, and you don't even know who to trust. So, in my opinion, I don't trust any of them. I mean, I hate to say that. But people are so, and it's always the left that is running into these really heavy situations. Anyway, I did get another one from ReaganCoalition.com again, by the way, and it says, Sean Hannity releases a 4-minute video of Obama praising Islam. So doesn't that make you feel really good? Over the past few years, we've seen an expression of Christianity painted as a violation of freedom of religion. If liberals are so concerned with the separation of church and state, why is it allowed that President Barack Obama to continue publicly praise and endorse Islam? Obama claims that he is a Christian, but there is no religion that has talked more empathetically about than Islam by this man. In a piece, it might be easy to overlook, but when you put it all his comments together, you see that Obama is very determined to push the religion of peace, which would be, the Islamist state. Thankfully, Sean Hannity has made it easy to view the piece as a whole by posting a 4-minute super cut of all of President Obama's most outrageous comments. We will convey our deep appreciation for the Islamic faith, which has, this is quotes, by the way, from Obama, which has done so much more over the centuries to shape the world. He is shown saying before he continues to say that it is that, quote unquote again, because the other one was a quote, by the way, Islam has always been a part of American story. And another quote, since our founding, Muslim Americans have enriched the United States, he argues. These arguments are not just one-sided. We're not even sure if they're historically accurate, and they are all affecting his views of foreign policy, which in turn is putting our nation at risk. So what do you think? Do we need a leader who won't turn a blind eye to real problems in America that America is facing? That's what it last states, by the way. So this man, just all the time he says he's a Christian, he believes in Christianity, but he just puts down and destroys Christianity at every, chance he gets, Obama, and then he just praises to the bitter end the Muslim belief and about Islam. So he's it's a very big double standard. Anyway, there's another one from ReaganCoalition.com that I found. It says, Muslim workers break to pray, stunned at what the boss gave them. Across America, businesses that employ Muslims are forced to accommodate them several times a day when they stop to bow to Mecca and partake in a traditional Islamic prayer, which undoubtedly cuts into the company's efficiency. Well, a group of Muslim employees in Wisconsin manufacturing plant recently stopped production to pray, and they were stunned what their employer had handed them. So here you go. Again, it's the U.S. buckling down to foreigners, which when you come to this country, you have to become, years ago, you had to become part of the melting pot. Not any longer, though. Arians manufacturer employs 53 Somalian Muslims at its Green Bay facility, and two times daily they all leave their positions on the assembly line to roll out rugs and pray to Allah. Apparently, the company was tired of the lost production from the interruptions, which can last well over 10 minutes by the time they walk away. Pray didn't actually make it back to the line, so the company did something about it. So they're losing lost time. It's like, I forget how many times I said they pray a day. I'm trying to look for that again. But, 10 minutes a pop. And if you're doing it like a dozen times a day, you're losing hours of work on an 8-hour shift. And then these Muslims are all pissed off about that. Like, okay, you're only working like 5 hours a day because you're praying for 3 hours out of that, and the company is forced to pay for that? I don't think so. According to W. Bay, when the Muslim workers left their posts to pray, their supervisor handed them unemployment forms and said that they're more than welcome to pray whenever they want, but they won't be doing it while employed at Arians. Hey, the employees don't have to bow to you. When you take that job, it's your responsibility to do what your job tells you to do. Hold on one moment. I have to unlock my computer again. And it's unlocking now. So, yeah, that's the truth. You get a job, you're supposed to sell yourself to the company. The company doesn't have to sell themselves to you. So I'm trying to look where I left off. Of course, such a policy didn't come without backlash, and the Muslim workers made sure to voice their disagreement with it. Fortunately, there's not much that we can be done, since the law from the Equal Opportunity Employment Commission states that an employee does not have to accommodate an employee's religious belief, or practice. So there you go. If doing so would cause undue hardship to the employer, such as decrease efficiency, which exactly happened. So, quote, we pray by the time, said the former employee Liam Mohammed. So they say, if we don't pray at the break time, they give us this unemployment paper to just leave. Well, you get that because you're spending hours on end you have to, when you take that job, you're under the understanding that you're under a contract with that company. They're not under a contract with you, Mohammed. So Mohammed, along with 43 other employees, opted to leave the job rather than pray during the scheduled break times. Arian said that it put a considerable amount of effort into finding a solution that allows for employees of Muslim faith to pray during work hours. And this was the only solution they could find, which means the former employees are out of luck. Everyone has the right to practice their religion of their choice, but they shouldn't expect someone else to accommodate them while they practice it. And I agree with this. And that what happens with these employers, nobody else gets to leave the work for up to 15 minutes twice a day to kneel on a rug outside of an already scheduled break. So why do these companies allow only Muslims to do so? Well, because it's the U.S. Kudos to Arians for leaving the playing field for everyone at their company and doing anyway with special favors for only a few. Equality is just that, treating everyone equally, and just as the employer wouldn't let someone go pray to a flying spaghetti monster 5 times a day, they shouldn't be making special accommodations for anyone else to pray to their God either. So my speculation is, the one part they say 2 times a day. I know that the person with the spaghetti monster, I did read that story somewhere else. My assumption is that they do, these Muslims, people who believe in the Muslim belief, pray up to 5 times a day. So you're saying 15 minutes, say it's 5 times a day, at 15 minutes a pop, you're talking 75 minutes in addition to the regular prayer time. So that's an hour and a half added on to probably, if depending where they work, they can get an hour and a half breaks. That's 3 hours a day of lost work time. So to let these people in to accommodate them. Is that right? No, not in my opinion. Well, according to the left, it is. Another Reagan coalition, I didn't know I had this many up. White couple refuses to give black thugs their seats. Then comes 15 seconds of terror. I did see this yesterday. This was another one of these really disturbing stories, which you will not hear about on, basically the liberal media on the news, because they don't want this kind of stuff to be covered. But I did find this one, and this is no joke, and it says, the liberal media like to point out white on black crimes that they claim is insensitive. It's indicative of the immense racism in America. Yet they constantly fail to report black on white crime. That is just because the prevalent in the urban, just because this. Let me reread that. Fail to report the black on white crime that is just as prevalent in urban America. So let me just rephrase that in my own words. They're basically saying that the liberal media won't report black on white crime, but they will report white on black crime, even though it's more prevalent, more prevalent in urban areas where there's a lot of black on white crime, more than is being reported. The only thing that's being reported is the other way around. According to the WTTG Fox 5 DC, there was a white couple sitting in a metro station. They were brutally assaulted by a gang of 10 black thugs after not giving their seat up. So here's a quote. It was pretty quick and direct. The male victim told the reporters, "They came up. I noticed they had scarves over their faces. They said a few words about my shoes, about getting up, and if I wanted to give them my seat. And then before I had a chance to respond, that this is when they just started attacking this couple. It all happened very quickly, and then there was just hitting us. They were just hitting us in the face and head." The female victim stated. So they hit not only the guy, these thugs, black thugs, they also were hitting the woman as well. This is the 4th assault of this type since December. So December is only a few weeks past, yet the media has been completely silent on these facts. The cries of racism aren't being heard. Al Sharpton hasn't gone on some triad and try to organize a protest march on this one. So these are innocent white victims. And again, since December, which is only a few weeks back, this was the 4th assault case against white folks. I guess since victims were white, this doesn't matter as much. This is what it states. I'm not making this up. The couple who were attacked stated that they most likely won't ride the metro anymore and blame the city for not alerting them that assaults like the one they had endured were occurring. So the same thing happened to me the other night. I was in the bathroom stall. I mentioned this, and somebody tried to kick in the door. I won't say whom, but tried to kick in the door and try to beat the shit out of me while I was sitting in the stall. But that one had not been heard either. At this time, just a few like if someone, let me repeat that. I'm so sorry. At this point, I just feel like if someone wants to attack me, they just can. This is a quote, by the way. The woman said, "I don't really feel safe in the metro anymore." Well, I don't feel safe even going out of the house anymore. There's another quote, by the way. Quote, "We would have liked to have known this, basically. I think if I had more information, I would have made a different decision about riding the metro. She added. So I really don't like riding trains anymore myself, even in Philadelphia. Police have released the surveillance shots of the previous suspects, but no photos of the most recent attack has been released as of Monday. So share this on Facebook, Twitter, if you know or think anything about this story. So there you go. This was only a few weeks ago this happened. I do have this buried in my Facebook page, just to give you a heads up. And it's just stuff like this that just gets like tossed in the wind. Wow, I did have another one from ReaganCoalition.com. I really have a lot. I didn't know this. This one says Hillary says she didn't have time to watch the 13 hours where she did have time for the presumptive Democratic presidential nominee. Hillary Clinton has never accepted responsibility, because it didn't actually finish that sentence, responsibility for the events that took place during the terror attack in the U.S. diplomatic compound in Benghazi. That's the one I couldn't remember, on September 11th of 2012. It states, quote unquote, it's not a quote. She lied to the American people about the cause of the attack, and she lied about to the family members of the victims about the events surrounding it. When being asked about the reasons for the attack by the congressional committee, she had the nerve to ask, what difference does it make? That was her response. In an attempt to brush her culpability under the rug. She swept it under the rug. She had never cared about what happened there, and she never will. So 13 hours these people were tormented in Benghazi, and she just brushes it under the rug like, well, what's the big deal? She doesn't care about it. And, hey, you feminists out there, this is the woman she also calls women bimbos. She had the bimbo eruption every day on her husband. That she was, found that to keep, quote unquote, the bimbos out of her husband's pants, or would try to take her husband down. In an interview in CNN on Sunday, Clinton said that she was too busy campaigning to watch the movie. So she made sure to add that she is very focused on making sure that nothing like this will happen again. Well, it shouldn't even happen the first time. She also had to slip in her 11-hour testimony as if it even begins to compare to the 13 hours of what these men went through. It is truthfully shameful. While Clinton claimed she was too busy campaigning, she did not make the time to appear on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, the Ellen DeGeneres Show, and the Lifetime Network, where she was interviewed by YouTube stars. Give us a break, is what it says. Clinton will never watch this movie because Benghazi is getting in the way of her quest for power, just as it did in 2012. Just another reason why Clinton should never get anywhere in the White House ever again. Please share this story on Twitter, Facebook, to show everyone just how Hillary continues to lie to American people on the daily basis. So this was on ReaganCoalition.com. Look for the story. Hillary says she didn't have time to watch 13 hours, and here's what she did have time for. So kind of fixed it up at the end. This was an interesting story because this is a actress, comedian I actually do like. She was on Saturday Night Live years ago. I don't think she's on anymore. I kind of, anyway, just let me read it. It says, that broke my heart. Emotional moment. Maya Rudolph broke down after learning her ancestors were slaves, including one who bravely fought for and won his freedom. So, hey, I got to break up the stories and show both sides. Anyway, the 43-year-old actress, comedian appears on the latest episode of PBS show Finding Your Roots. The genealogy team is able to trace back to the early 1800s through her mom, African-American singer Mimi Minnie Riperton. I actually really like Minnie Riperton. She's got a really good voice. She did. I remember being in grade school. I think it was like first grade or nursery school. And I heard that one song, Lovin' You, from Minnie Riperton, and it just tore me apart. I used to love that song. Anyway, Maya, who is a biracial, basically, woman, finds the slave census record of one of her ancestors who was registered as a slave at age 5. Yeah, she's actually a pretty damn good comedian. I know I've heard this in the past that her mother was actually, Maya's mother was Minnie Riperton, which I really like, that singer. Another ancestor was freed in his owner's will, but had to fight for those rights against the owner's grandson. So it's pretty interesting. Yeah, she's biracial, the mom. And they show her as a little kid with her mom and her dad. So, yeah, Minnie Riperton was a really good singer, by the way. Yeah, I seem to have my stories all clumped together, at least. I have another one from Daily Mail. Death of a protector. How hero chemistry professor took on the Taliban single-handedly to let his students escape a Pakistani university massacre that left 30 dead. So it says warning graphic content. And it is, the pictures are, honestly, they are pretty gross because what looks like in one picture is not only a lot of blood, but it looks like brain matter. I mean, like literally brain splattered on the ground. So anyway, just giving you a heads up on that. It says fanatics storm Baka Khan University near Peshawar in the volatile Northwest, leaving dozens dead and injured. Basically, a chemistry lecturer, Saeed Hamid Hussain, 32, shielded students by opening fire on militants as they stormed the campus. So this man was very brave. Known as the Protector because he was a keen hunter and kept 9mm pistols, possibly in light of other militant attacks. The attack was chilling echoes of massacre at a nearby army school last year and attacks by the Taliban on girls' education. It states that it also believed the school may have been targeted because it is named after a late secular icon and ally of jihad. Or no, I'm sorry, not jihad. Gandhi, icon of an and ally of Gandhi. So yeah, I'm not going to read the me because I just screw things up like profusely or really severely. How's that? Anyway, it says the chemistry lecturer known as the Protector died saving his students by firing back at the Taliban militants during a deadly attack on the university that left 30 dead and dozens injured today. So that is actually a very, hey, that's a very brave thing that he did. It's just a shame. See, this is the thing people don't realize. They, what's going on in these other countries, you're not letting the victims of these countries into ours. You're actually letting the ones that create these problems into our country. So you're letting the wrong people in to begin with, and you're defending the wrong side. You're not protecting the innocent. You're actually shielding the guilty or the evil side. So, and they just don't seem to know that. So I feel bad. That's very brave thing this man did, known as the Protector. But yeah, he definitely put his life to protect many others. So it's a very, I can't even think of the right word. I was going to say chivalrous, but that's not the correct word. Anyway, I got this story. This was kind of shocking because this was in Norristown Times-Herald, and it was in Norristown that I have now. And it says East Norton residence victim of distraction burglary. And it was in East Norton, which isn't far. East Norton police are asking for the public's help in a distraction burglary that took place in Lawton Road on Monday. It said, according to the release, a white female wearing a tan winter coat with a fur-lined hood, dark sunglasses, blue jeans, and tan boots distracted a resident who answered the door by saying she was from the gas company to inspect the gas lines due to the gas explosion down the street. While the woman kept the victims occupied asking several questions, other individuals proceeded to steal several items from the inside of the residence. The female spoke into a walkie-talkie or smartphone twice while distracting the victims. So there you go. Here's another case of stupidity in our town. And, people being robbed blind by those who are just, basically just plain thieves. Anyone with any information regarding this incident is asked to contact the East Norton Police Department or the department, the detectives at area code 610-272-0748, and you basically dial extension 112. The police further advise residents to not allow any strangers into their homes without checking their credentials, and to always call police if any questions regarding any type of solicitor. We've actually had solicitors come to our house that kind of looked very shady in the past, and I'm not going to say much, but yeah, I definitely kind of shun, kind of tell them like I'm not interested and close the door. And my father's had that too. So, because we live under the same roof. Anyway, I finally got one light story that popped up. It was on peewee.com for like Pee Wee Herman. Anyway, sorry, I think I backed away from the mic for a bit. Here's a clip from my new movie, and the premiere date, January 19th, 2016. Pee Wee Herman's got a new movie. It's going to be on Netflix. It's called Pee Wee's Big Holiday. So, yeah, it's coming out, well, actually, January 19th has passed, so he's going to announce it. There's no definite date, so I apologize. I know you've been waiting a long time for this, but here it is. It's the first clip from his new movie, Pee Wee's Big Holiday. My movie premieres at SXSW in Austin, Texas. Then Pee Wee's Big Holiday starts streaming on Netflix at 12 o'clock a.m. Friday, March 18th. So there is a date. So there you go. If you're a big Pee Wee Herman fan, the movies were actually a little bit better. Not much better, but they were better than that horrible TV series he had. Because I bought it at one point, and I had to get rid of it. His series was it was horrendous, his TV series. I couldn't even get through the first episode or two. And I got it when it first came out, so it was much cheaper. But trust me, it was not that good at all. I had to get rid of it. It was just horrible. Again, his movies were okay. They weren't great. They were okay. But, yeah, his TV show was it was popular back in the day. Don't get me wrong. Because they used to show the show twice a day. Once during the day for the kids, and then once again at night for adults, because adults liked Pee Wee's just as much. Anyway, here's a really fun story. Times-Herald News. Me and a friend went on this. My friend Matt. We went to Collindale Railroad Preservation Trust. For trains. We went up to take a train ride. I think for Halloween. It was pretty fun. It was kind of short. But your money, your proceeds, basically they go towards to preserve historic trains. So they just got enough money to restore, I guess another train, or actually make the train ride even longer, because the one me and my friend went on wasn't that long at all. So anyway, it says engines arrive marks next stage in Collindale's railroad's journey. And it says underneath of a picture, community leaders from Pottstown and Boyertown gathered for the arrival of the new 50s-era GP-10 locomotive at the Collindale Railroad Boyertown Yard Tuesday. On the engine are Boyertown Mayor Marilyn V. Derry and Pottstown Mayor Sharon Valentine Thomas, and Collindale Railroad President Nathaniel Guest, as they celebrate on a cold winter's day. You're going to have to give me a moment again. I think my thing just locked out again, so give me 1 second, and I'll try to make it quick. Alrighty, that was quick. So it says Boyertown. The 1869 leaders from the Pottstown made their way to Boyertown on a newly completed Collindale Railroad. Nearly 150 years later, a similar scene unfolded as the Collindale's very own engine puffed its way for the first time officially the rail yard at Washington and 3rd Street. So, yeah, I thought, because somebody else read this, basically they're making it a little longer, the trip. I'm kind of cutting through the chase about some of the story, but it looked like they were expanding the railroad line for these, train rides you can take. Yeah, it says although they restored the rail cars, have just been plying the 8.6 miles through the Secret Valley for months. They have been moved by leased engines, guests explain. The leased engines already returned to its owners, and a new engine, a 1950s-era GP-10, will pull the trip for the foreseeable future, even though the paint job won't be done until spring. So what they do is they take these old trains, they restore them, and then, how they can afford to do this is by basically people donating money. So it's more than just taking a short train ride. You're actually preserving, people who are into trains. You're contributing money to this, restoring these historic trains. Because, believe it or not, people forget this, but, our country was basically made, pushing towards the West was, the biggest thing were locomotives. And, that's part of our history is trains. That needs to be preserved. So in the meantime, the Collindales, it says phalanx of volunteers will not only help restore the engine, but now that it is their own, some of the volunteers can also be licensed to drive it, guests said. So I guess the other ones were on borrow, the trains they had in the past. This is one they officially now own and will now restore, and it is officially part of, this train historic landmark in Boyertown. Anyway, everyone wants to be a locomotive engineer, guest said with a chuckle. I actually got an email about if I, anybody was interested in learning how to be an engineer on the train, you could do it. Be a volunteer, learn how to ride the train. It can't be that hard. It'd be kind of fun, actually. The Collindale's new locomotive number is 7236, was built for the Pennsylvania Railroad and later worked for Conrail and a number of short lines before coming to Pottstown from Ohio. So the engine is mechanically in fine shape and needs to be painted and lettered. We're looking for the sponsors and volunteers to help to get this old girl back into shape for our 2016 season. We hope to dedicate it in May, said guest. The budgets for obtaining, transporting, and restoring and painting the engine is about $100,000. And so far, roughly $26,000 has been raised towards their cost, said guest. So, I mean, there's a lot of train lovers out there. I remember I worked at the train store. There's people who really are, because it's part of the, the American culture is the history of trains. I even have a cousin who's into a train collection and likes taking trains. So this place just kind of keeps, train lovers. It's a hobby on a bigger scale. It's not an N scale or H scale. This is actually a full scale train for train lovers. He singled out Dennis J. Stevens, CPA, is what this one part says. Our friends at the Other Farm Brewery and Scott Rosenberger's place for a particular acknowledgement in the effort, and also thanked Norfolk Southern for giving the Collindale a discount on transporting this engine to its new home. And there's a quote, our volunteers have 5 months of work to do before we can dedicate it this May, said guest. So there you go. That was a pretty cool story, even though I fucked it up. Yeah, so there's a story. It's I think I already actually read this one, so I think a friend sent me a story I already read before. I'll look at it again. It was on Local 21 News. Babysitter accused of leaving duct tape 3-year-old in trash bag inside closet. Yeah, I did read that the other day. Somebody sent me a story I already read. This was in Arizona. A man accused man and woman behind bars after police charged him with keeping a 3-year-old duct tape in a closet. This is the one I think. I'm going to look through it real quick so I don't have to reread it. I'll just read over some highlights anyway. It says police found the child sitting in a trash bag in her own feces taped around her legs, arms, and mouth. She also had injuries consistent with sexual abuse. Yeah, this is the one I read before. Suffering from malnutrition. The suspects say that the child's babysitter had tied her up because he wanted to have sex with people he met online without being interrupted. So there's pictures and stuff on this link from local21news.com. Yeah, that's right. Now, here's another story about a sex offender, by the way, and a female substitute teacher. And it gives the name of it's middle school, high school. Now, I have to bring this up because I'll read this first. It says, Ohio substitute teacher charged with sexting underage student during years of flirtatious sex. An Ohio substitute teacher had been accused of sending a particularly partially nude photo to a student as part of a years-long texting relationship. Now, this is a married woman, too, by the way. Mary Breath, not Beth, but Breath, was suspended from her position at Anna High School for a string of flirtatious messages that started back in 2013 when the boy was only 14 years old. The married 25-year-old will be charged with contributing to unruthless or delinquency of a child, according to the Shelby County Sheriff's Office. One of the photos in November showed the teacher in only her underwear, using an arm to cover her breast, police told Chief Deputy Jim Frey. Yeah, Frey. Well, let me read because there was something I must have missed, so I apologize. Okay, one of the photos in November showed the teacher in her underwear using an arm only to cover her breasts, police told the Chief Deputy Jim Frey, which told the paper that the photo sent to the teen was bad, but again, not did not meet the elements of sexual crime and did not meet the technical requirements for nudity. So, see, they always find ways around this stuff. This woman, Breath, Breth, instead of Beth, it's Breath, reportedly cooperated with investigators and confessed to inappropriate behavior, contributing to the unruthless of a child is a first-degree misdemeanor in Ohio and is punishable by up to 180 days in jail, which I guarantee you, most likely, since it is a woman, she'll probably just basically get a slap on the wrist, and she's lucky if she even gets a house arrest over this. Now, I know, this is one of these stories, like I said, I'll be told I'm beating a dead horse, but here's another story of some sense of being a sex offender. It's a married woman, and yet the other day, I may have read this or I didn't, but there was in another country, well, the guy sexually assaulted a boy, ended up in prison, and he got gang raped by the inmates twice. I think it was like every inmate in this prison. It wasn't in this country. And they showed pictures that were very disturbing, and the man was bleeding out of his anus. And he had multiple stab wounds on his back, like all over his back. He had multiple stab wounds, which he obviously got him treated. And when he got gang raped the second time, it said in the article that these inmates tore the stitches out of the sutured wounds, basically reopened them up and re-stabbed them on the back, and they also, they continued to gang rape him for a second time. So you don't hear about this stuff in the U.S., especially with females. You won't see a female go to a prison and who has assaulted a young boy. No, they're going to be held up on a pedestal and treated like they're queens. But, if similar situations happen in the U.S. with these sexual sex offenders, I think you would probably not hear me talk about them as much because there wouldn't be that many cases in those cases. If somebody would brutally sexually assault a woman or a sexual predator male who was truly sent to prison, and not just like the women especially get a slap on the wrist about it and they get a pat on the back, what a way to go. Hey, you just taught this boy some valuable lesson in life. You would not hear about these cases at all, or at least a lot less. So, hey, here's another one that's pretty interesting. On PIX 11, thank you, Todd, because I see that. I know it's him right away. Toddler dies after grandmother her gun goes off in the bed. That's what it says. New Orleans. A 42-year-old woman has been arrested for allegedly sleeping with a gun under her pillow that went off, striking and killing a toddler early Wednesday morning. Basically, it says New Orleans Police Department received a call from around 2:12 a.m. about a shooting at a home on Red Maple Drive in New Orleans. When they arrived, a 3-year-old toddler was suffering from a gunshot wound to the chest. He was taken to the hospital where he had died. The child's grandmother, Dianca Kennedy, was the only person in the house at the time, according to New Orleans Police Department press release states. Police believe that Kennedy was sleeping with a gun under her pillow when it went off. The toddler slept next to her and was struck in the chest. Kennedy refused to answer any questions when asked about the incident, police stated. The grandmother was booked on 3 counts of negligent homicide, second-degree cruelty to the juvenile, and a child desertion Wednesday. There is no ongoing investigation at this point. Believe it or not, I got a lot of more stories to go. I'm just giving you a heads up. I thought this was going to be a short night, but obviously it's not. This is from Dream and Demon. I got this story. William Sewell Jr. accused of forcing a girl to eat her own feces, and this is in Gainesville, Georgia. William Sewell Jr., 36, and Stacy Hicks, 33, have been arrested and accused of denying a girl food and forcing her to eat her own feces instead. Sewell and Hicks have been charged with first-degree cruelty to a child, to children for alleged acts against a child whose age has not been released in 2013 and 2014. It says, according to the increments, Hicks deprived the child of necessary substance to the extent that the child's health and well-being was jeopardized. It says Sewell, it's Sewell, just in case anybody's interested on this person's first name, is accused of hitting, kicking, and biting the girl on separate occasions, as well as causing the girl cruel and extensive physical and mental pain by requiring her to eat her own feces. Hicks is facing one count of first-degree child cruelty once again, while Sewell is facing 3 counts. The increment does not decline the relationship between Hicks and Sewell, but the girl shares Hicks' last name. So it might be, I guess you're insinuating a little bit of incest as well on some part. Sewell isn't the only person we have featured on a Double D who has been accused of forcing a kid to eat their own shit. Nicole Candandra was accused of forcing her boyfriend's 3-year-old daughter to eat shit as well, and 2 women in New York allegedly forced a 2-year-old to eat feces from her own diaper. So yeah, that's another trend with the millennials, having little younger tots eating their own shit. Huh. I read this one before. There was a story I thought I was going to read, but I didn't. Oh, here's one from Lancaster. It must be Todd because he lives in Lancaster online. Police Chester County man sexually assaulted his grandmother, stabbed her to death. Chester County man stabbed his grandmother to death and sexually assaulted her and his mother, police stated. Kevin Anthony Havlow Jr., 23, killed his 81-year-old Aileen Waters Tuesday morning, state police and Avondale said. Police were called for a rape in progress at 135 Irwin Drive in Lower Oxford Township shortly before 2:30 a.m. It is near Lincoln University, about 7 miles from Coleraine Township, Lancaster County. Officers found Waters unresponsive in the first-floor bedroom with trauma to her chest, neck, and head. According to a criminal complaint, they provided medical treatment, but she died at the scene. Police conducted interviews and forensic analysis. They allege the following in a criminal complaint. Let me just open up my thing again. Oh, good. It didn't shut down this time. Haverlow lived in a 3-bedroom home with his sister, mother, and grandmother. Waters slept on a sofa bed and needed a walker to get around. I guess that's the grandmother then. The motive, according to police, Haverlow went out with a male friend Monday night and smoked marijuana. He returned home and asked his mother if his friend could stay the night, and his mother said no. She told him she would no longer put up with his misbehavior. Haverlow was angry, believing his mother and his grandmother were preventing him from having any normal social life, including having a girlfriend and smoking marijuana in the house, Chester County District Attorney Thomas Hogan said to the press release. The attacks Haverlow and his mother fought in an upstairs hallway of their home, and he sexually assaulted her. The complaints state LNPD does not identify sexual assault victims except in extraordinary circumstances. The mother escaped to the powder room of the first on the first floor. The complaints state Haverlow pursued her, but then he confronted Waters in the kitchen. Haverlow pulled her to the bedroom next to the kitchen and sexually assaulted her, police said. His mother tried to defend Waters by striking Haverlow in the head, shoulders, and back with a plastic broom. Well, that really did a good job. Haverlow pursued his mother into the kitchen and continued to assault her, police stated, and Haverlow's sister, who had called 911, tried to defend her mother by striking Haverlow with the broom as well. The mother escaped to a utility room, and the sister escaped to the upstairs bedroom. The complaint states Haverlow retrieved a knife from the kitchen and returned to Waters' bedroom, where he stabbed her in the chest. Haverlow retrieved 2 more knives from the kitchen, returned to Waters' bedroom, and with the knife in each hand, stabbed her more than 20 times in the chest, neck, and head. The complaints states troopers arrived and took Haverlow into custody without an incident. Haverlow admitted to killing his grandmother and trying to rape his mother and grandmother, according to the complaint. Police charged Haverlow with first-degree murder, attempted rape, aggravated indecent assault, and related charges. He was assigned before District Judge Scott Macy in Oxford and committed to Chester County Prison without bail. State police continue to investigate and ask anyone with information to call at 610-268-2022. Haverlow's past. Haverlow's basically graduated from Oxford Area High School. Police said the criminal in a criminal complaint. He enlisted in the Army National Guards but did not complete his commitment. He worked at Walmart store and at a Her's Food, but was unemployed at the time of the incident. It basically says Haverlow's was voluntarily committed to Brandywine Hospital in December for threatening to harm himself, police said, and he was discharged after about a week. So there you go. There's another interesting story. Another one from Lancaster Online, probably from Todd, obviously. PA man accused of leaving 3 sons in a cold car while watching a football game at his friend's house. So that was really nice of him. A Washington County man is facing charges after being accused of leaving his 3 sons in a cold car Saturday night while he watched a football game with his friends. The Observer reporter reported James Grusfosky, 33, realized his 4-year-old son wasn't in the car after he drove home. This Grusfosky, or whatever, allegedly had left the 4-year-old in the car with the boy's 7-year-old and 9-month-old brothers. Police found the boy at 9:45 p.m. Saturday without a coat, socks, or shoes after someone called them after hearing the boy yelling, according to the Observer reporter. The temperatures was in the 30s. I have a picture of this father, by the way. He was in the house watching football. Isn't that great? The newspaper reported the child's mother and grandmother reported the child missing about an hour after police found him. Grusfosky went into the police station later that night and reportedly told police he had been drinking, according to KDKA. The news station reported that he allegedly tried to punch an officer and fought another after being told he was going to be charged. KDKA reported Grusfosky was taken to a hospital to be evaluated after police had to use a taser to sustain and take him into custody. I don't know if it's just the same idiot that kicked on the door at that place I was at. He said he was over a friend's house, watching a football game. But my incident happened on Saturday night as well. He faces charges of endangering the welfare of children, aggravated assault on a police officer, and resisting arrest. A woman who lives near Grafowski and his fiancee told KDKA they seemed like good parents. Well, obviously they are not. And a quote, "It is very surprising this would happen." Renee Shalato said, quote, "They were always outside with their children, and they always do things with the children when he's off work," which is probably most of the time. "I see them in the backyard. I think there was too much partying, and that's about it, because it seems like a nice family." So they're going to offend these people when they do stuff wrong. And by the way, just to clarify, this guy is a Caucasian. So, but he left 3 kids in the car to freeze. I don't know if they froze to death, but they definitely were in the car, with temperatures below 30 degrees. So really, way to go. I pulled up this story, by the way, my next one from MeTV, and it says 8 boss disco jockeys of the 1960s. Did you listen to any of them? And they show the one that I do recognize. And it was the guy back in the day when I was growing up, because he was still pretty popular back in the 70s, was Wolfman Jack. He was a real big thing back in the day. But these other ones I don't even know of. Like, it says Dick Bondi, Johnny Holiday, Dave Hull, K.Y. Litt, Robert W. Morgan, Bruce, Cousin Brucey Morrow. I've heard of Cousin Brucey. Murray Tech. And then the last one was Wolfman Jack. Wolfman Jack, it says somewhere about Wonder Woman. I think he was actually in the one episode. I did see him that one episode on the reruns, with Linda Carter and Wonder Woman. Not to mention American Graffiti, The Odd Couple, and more. He also narrated the Fonz and the Happy Days gang cartoon. Was Wolfman Jack. Yeah, he was a big thing, I think even in the 70s, like I said. Hey, something else? Comicbookmovie.com. Sony gives Spider-Man a new release date, and it's with this new actor, yet again another actor playing Spider-Man. After appearing in Marvel Captain America Civil War, Tom Holland's Spider-Man will be appearing in his own standalone feature film. Moments ago, Sony and Marvel just announced a brand new release date for the web crawler. Did the new Spidey film shift up or shift back? So there's a little bit about that. Quarrels, for those fans, Sony is moving the live-action Spidey film up, not back. Instead of releasing it on July 28th, 2017, the film now will be released July 7th. The film will star Tom Holland as Peter Parker, and Marissa Tomei as Aunt May. Oh, that really sucks, because, God, I had many wet dreams about Miss Melissa Tomei, and now they're making her, back in the day. She's, like, super hot, but now they're making her Aunt May. John Watts directs from the script written by John Francis. Script written by John Francis DeLay and Jonathan G. Goldstein is the person who wrote the script for the new Spider-Man. It says other films scheduled to appear around the new release date, including Wonder Woman 6/23, Despicable Me 3, 6/30, Uncharted 6/30, War of the Planet of the Apes 7/14. The shift release date moves the Spider-Man film away from Christopher Nolan's Dunrick, and which is 721, and Valoran and the City of a Thousand Planets, which is 721. So it looks like I've seen the teaser, but it looks like, I guess it won't be until next year, which is what, January, February, March. June of next year will be the Wonder Woman movie. So that actually will come after the Wonder Woman movie will come after the fact of, what do you call it? After the release of, what do you call it? After the release of, damn it, I'm drawing a blank. After the release of Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice. So, anyway, this is really cool. I'm kind of being a little skeptical, though, too. It's really cool. The guy got back to me from this thing called SD, but I told him, hey, this is really cool. He actually made an action figure of Kylo Ren, from Star Wars, Matt, from that skit on Saturday Night Live. Two people actually already jumped on the bandwagon on this, where they took some action figures and they changed the Kylo Ren action figure into basically the skit that he did on Saturday Night Live, which was really funny. So I told the one guy, I said, yeah, I'm like, that's really cool how you did this on Estes. Made like an action figure out of Kylo Ren playing an undercover boss character. And I said, yeah, I'd definitely be interested in one of those action figures. And he said, yeah, I'm making them for $60. Like, whoa, that's a lot of money. I said, but I try to be nice to him. I said, listen, I'm interested, but I can't afford it right now. And he asked me for my information, and he billed me later. It's like, dude, if I give you my information, he takes PayPal, you're going to be like, no offense, you could probably break into my account. So I'm not going to give you my information. You don't do stuff like that. You don't, offer an invitation for people to take your basically your credit information. Anyway, it says on this story from slashgear.com, Kylo Ren SNL action figure mock-ups, Imagine Matt radar technician. So, Kylo Ren's supposed to be an undercover boss on this skit from Saturday Night Live, and it was really funny, and he plays the alter ego Matt radar technician. And again, people did these mock-ups, which I really like, but, that's really asking a lot. Like, you're mocking them up $60. This guy said, hey, I'm selling for $60. Like, dude, that's an awful lot. I mean, these action figures are only worth, which is overpriced at that, $10. So, if you marked it up to $20 maybe or something, that'd be kind of like a markup. Even $30 would be pushing it. But $60, you can, keep your doll. No offense. I mean, I did appreciate it. I'll have to write the guy back and say, listen, I'd rather not do that. No offense to you, but I'm not going to have my account stolen. Anyway, I did put up a picture from last year at this time when Kevin Smith had his beard shaved off for a movie that he was working on. He had he played a part in this movie. I don't know if it was for Yoga Hosers. I think it was, because he wanted originally he wanted Jason Lee to do the part. Jason Lee, no. Jason Mewes to do the part, and Jason Mewes said he just couldn't wear like this prosthetic thing on his face. And Kevin Smith basically said, "Don't worry, I'm not going to make you do something you can't do. Don't worry about it." And he shaved his beard off because he had to wear like this rubber latex all over his face, for this costume. So anyway, I got a picture with him. Unfortunately, it was on my cell phone, and he said it was a year from yesterday that, I got this picture of Kevin Smith. And honestly, he looks really good. He always gives this like goofy look on his face. I got a picture. The picture is kind of out of focus because, again, it was on my cell phone. It did not turn out that great. I cleaned it up somehow the best I could. It was great to meet Kevin Smith. He has this Fat Man shirt on. It's me next to him. It's on Facebook, and it says January 20th of 2015 when the picture was originally taken. He was really nice to talk to. I met him twice. But honestly, Kevin Smith looks a lot different not only a lot different without his beard, he actually looks really good. He can not have to wear a beard, but he looks extremely young, too. He looks like, not that much older than his daughter, because his daughter's 15, but he looks like he's in his 20s again. So, again, I'm not kidding about that. He looks extremely young. So I got to give him credit for that. And he's complaining about, I'm an old man now. It's like, dude, you're younger than me. You're like 5 years younger than me. So I just had to mention that. Anyway, yeah, I might have read this before, but I put it up again, I guess. It's from ikwiz.com. It says, titled, No! Star Wars Episode 8 release pushed back 6 months to late 2017, basically December. So it's going to be 2 years from the movie coming out. But the only thing is, though, it's not going to be that much of a break for Star Wars fans, because you got to remember, there's an in-betweener movie in the Star Wars universe, which is not Star Wars, but it's, a movie in that universe that's coming out the end of this year. So they're not keeping you like out of the Star Wars universe for another 40 years or something, or 10 years. They're only doing it for a couple months, and there also is going to be that other film coming out anyway, in the Star Wars line of movies, the end of this year. So anyway, it says Star Wars Episode 8 is being pushed back 11 months from Memorial Day weekend to 2017 from 2017 to December 15th of that year. Well, you know what? Technically, Episode 7 came out in December, so they're kind of keeping them on that same month of releasing them at least. Instead, Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales will be opened on May 26th of 2017, and Star Wars Old Home, it says Star Wars Old Home. I don't know. Anyway, it says the Pirates movie was to have originally launched in theaters on July 7th. So they kind of, I guess, pushed both of them back. No, they pushed one up and one back. But either way, I can understand. They want to make sure they're both Disney movies. Releasing both those movies around the same time would just be a really big mistake. So I understand why they're doing it. Oh, wow. I forgot about this one. I actually did have another one from ReaganCoalition.com. Really good story. It was on Trump. Married couple helped Trump after a limo broke down. Then Trump did this. So this happened back in 95, but they're just bringing it up now on Reagan Coalition because you always hear about all the bad things about Trump. You never hear anything good about him. So he said, while the media is busy smearing Donald Trump, he continues to speak directly to the American people and skyrocket in the polls. That is because we know the truth and we would never report this story. So they're kind of insinuating, the leftists, well, whatever, the public media would never release this because, hey, we don't want to say good things about Trump. We only want to release the information that makes him look like an asshole. So back in 1995, a married couple noticed a limo on the side of the road that had a flat tire. The husband pulled the car over to the side and fixed the tire to this limo, which belonged to Trump, who thanked the man and asked how he could repay him for his kind gift. The man suggested sending his wife a bouquet of flowers. So Trump did agree, and not only did he send his wife flowers as a kind gesture, it says, and when the flowers arrived several weeks later, there was also a note included that stated or said, we've paid off your mortgage. So Trump not only, as a kind gesture he not only sent this guy's wife a bouquet of flowers for the fixing the tire on his limousine, he also paid off this husband and wife's mortgage loan. So there you go. This incredible story was shared by Jerry Falwell Jr., president of Liberty University, who has known Trump for years. Watch below as he recalls this story and others about just what a true Christian man Donald Trump is. Excuse me. And it says incredible. As Reverend Farrell opted, I got to know Donald Trump after he spoke at the Liberty University in 2012. I learned so much about him that which the public never hears. And it says, can you see why the media would never report this side of Donald Trump? So yeah, the only things that are being reported on any level about Donald Trump is just him being a recluse, a person who's just a mess. You never hear one good thing about the man, not one. And that's because, like, what do you call it? Senator Ted Cruz, they're never going to bring anything good out about either one of them or any Republican. It's always going to be about how they're, cutting each other's throats and how they're just a mess. So, anyway, I got one from BloodyDisgusting.com. Friday the 13th, my favorite movie series. David Bruckner's vision was to make an 80s coming-of-age monster movie. Well, guess what? This guy that I just mentioned, his name, David Bruckner's, is also responsible for the VHS films, or at least the first one, which I really liked the first one. I liked that. I liked the second one. After the success of VHS, David Bruckner went on to develop a new Friday the 13th for both Paramount Pictures and Platinum Dunes. Originally set to be a found footage remake of the 1980s classic, a second attack at the script was to take a more traditional approach. Unfortunately, back in December, a new writer was brought on to take yet another crack at Jason Voorhees, which ousted Bruckner from the project. While in development, Bruckner filmed a segment in our upcoming Southbound in theaters February 5th and VOD February 9th, and is doing a press tour. So you can read more. There's more to the story. I'm not going to read it all. One of his first stops was Fangoria, who got some inside info on both Friday the 13th that could have been. So if you're like me and you're like a big fan, don't ask me why I am, but of the Friday the 13th series, yeah, there was one from this guy who did a really good job, I thought, with the VHS movie. It was a little quirky, but it was actually pretty damn good. And I guess he started doing some work on the project, and then he got taken off. So maybe there's some footage to be seen, is what I guess. I didn't read the whole thing, and I'm not going to torture people with that. But, hey, to say the least, I just figured I'd kind of bring that to people's attention in case you are interested in, kind of reading up on that. I know I'll read it later on. I'm not going to bother people with stuff that I already do. But, I mean, even more so, because I've actually turned this show into another pretty long show, much longer than I intended to originally. So, yeah, so there's that. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to post something too right now, so I apologize. On Twitter. Actually, the story I'm just mentioning, so I want to tweet this. So I have it on all my media sites, because, again, I like the guy who did the VHS films. I thought they were pretty good. Hey, you know what? I'm surprised I do have some more in my mix from ReaganCoalition.com. Georgia judge jails Muslim woman for wearing headscarf to court. This happened next. Yeah, this is an interesting story. I just put it in my mix. I'm going to read it. A city judge in Georgia has, in the past 8 days, barred 2 Muslim women for wearing Islamic headscarves from entering his courtroom, jailing one and prompting an inquiry from the Civil Rights Office at the U.S. Department of Justice. Judge Keith Rowlands of Douglasville, Georgia, yesterday ordered Lisa Valentine, 41, to jail after she refused to remove her scarf before entering the courtroom. Citing Roll's government-appropriate dress, last week, Sabrine Dumain, whatever, was forced to leave Rowland's court before her son's probation hearing because she did not remove her scarf. Security officers handcuffed her and brought her before Rowland's, who sentenced her to 10 days in jail when she declined to defend her actions at the security checkpoint. Her husband, Omar Hal, said, now here's a quote that says, it's an issue of religious freedom. Yeah, it says it's an issue of religious freedom. It's an issue of access to an American legal system, said Ahim Hooper, a spokesman from the Council of American Islamic Relations, CAIR. What do you think, Sure, if you stand with Judge Rowlands? I honestly, I have to, because I find that very discouraging. Where again, my point of view is that it's we can't go into another country and say, hey, this is the way America, how we act in America, so you have to accept our norms and our beliefs. We don't have to accept yours. But yet, when anybody, from these other countries whose religious beliefs are completely different from ours enter our country, we just have to cave in every single time. And that even goes to, for where I work, where, we got women there that are, basically Muslim, and they wear their headgear in basically areas that technically it's a thing of sanitation, because where I work, sanitation is very important, that, you're not, I'm trying to think of the right word, you're not contaminate the product, but does our country do anything about that? No. They buckle in, and, that's priority number one, is these individuals' religious beliefs. And it's not about, hey, you could be actually contaminating products. Well, that's not important. The important thing is that we respect these individuals' religious belief. And to me, I find that extremely offensive and actually just unethical. But, hey, I can't say anything about that because I'll get myself in trouble for saying that. So, I definitely think what that guy was doing was, hey, you're in our justice system. You're entering the court of law. You have to abide by our rules, our American U.S. rules. We don't have to buckle down to your, rules as being, Islamic or a Muslim. That's not our duty to cave into you, on our, sacred ground, our country. That's not our job to cave into you. It's your job to cave into us or respect our wishes. Just a heads up. Anyway, one on the lighter note, I had to throw this in the mix. It was from Fox 29. They're now making Cinnabon Oreo cookies. I think that's ridiculous. It probably tastes really nasty. It's a Cinnabon Oreos hit the store shelves, fan favorite returns. So apparently people did love them. Lovers of the dunkable cookies and sweet cinnamon goodness rejoice. Nabisco is releasing a highly anticipated Cinnabon Oreos, and America is just set to be a much sweeter place. Yeah, probably more people getting diabetes, too. Along with the release of the Cinnabon Goodness minus the flaky mess, Nabisco is bringing back the fan favorite permanently to the store shelves, Red Velvet Oreos. There's 2 coming out. This was another one, actually, from the Times Herald. I said another one, but, I meant actually differently. There's some, pool area residents in Norristown. It's Norristown's Carvel Center plans for continued revival in 2016. The renovated pool in the George Washington Carver Community Center in Norristown sits covered for the winter Wednesday, January 20th. But, yeah, they're going to work to clean it up for next year and, make some improvements. The Renaissance at the George Washington Carver Community is continuing in 2016 again. So there's an article on that. I got more stories to go through. I just figured I'd just throw that out there for people who are actually interested. Hey, it's a nice place to go when we get these hot summers. A place you can kind of cool off, and this can be one place during the summer that they will have reopened by, this coming summer. I have a lot. From another story from the ReaganCoalition.com. God, I had a ton of stories from that. Professor who said fuck police gets rewarded with a visit to our beloved President Obama. It says Downtread reports a hysterical professor who posted fuck police over and over again on a social media rant was rewarded with a visit to Barack Obama. Amanda Galley is an English professor at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. She's also a director of a group called Nebraskans Against Gun Violence. On a Facebook rant last month, she viciously attacked the law enforcement, the courts, and everyone else trying to enforce the law and enforce law and order. To reward her for her madness, she was given a rare invitation to meet Barack Obama while he was in Maya Wednesday. Her explosive Landon rant sounded quite different from her tone in the interview with the local papers about her meeting with Barack Obama. So it's quoted by her saying, "I think it's just wonderful that Obama has made this policy priority." She told the Journal Star, "I hope that it results in bringing this issue to the forefront of the political conversation in our state as the legislative session begins." The Journal Star reported that Galley was among 10 members of the Nebraskan Against Gun Violence who received a personal invitation from the White House to attend the speech at the Baxter Arena, but Galley was the only one of them asked to meet Obama himself. So that's pretty funny. This whole thing with this, Obama being against guns was, a lot of the guns out there, like I heard this on Rush today, especially down in South America, were put out there by Barack Obama's Fast and Furious program, which was supposed to make guns look like, hey, look where the guns are landing, that are being, the guns that people are buying in the U.S., where they're going. Well, there were guns that were traced back to, Barack Obama, though. And this woman is like another hypocrite, or just an idiot, I should say, who has no clue that this is the man who put the guns in the criminals' hands in the first place. And she's praising that she got to meet him. So anyway, it says she told the Journal Star that Obama's decision to expand the amount of gun vendors who have to conduct background checks was really important, mostly because they have to put the issue forward as a major policy point. Carmen Seba of BizPack Reviews asked the moderators of the Nebraska Gun Control Group if Galley had ever made any derogatory comments about police, and they immediately responded no. But minutes later, I posted a screenshot of comments and asked if the writer of those comments and the woman who met the president were not, in fact, one in the same. Rather, they replied, the page administrators deleted all of the correspondence, including the pictures, and blocked me from this page. So the person who wrote this said they got blocked, and they quickly took down, even after they got caught, basically red-handed in a fucking lie. So I thought that was pretty good. So that was on ReaganCoalition.com, and it says professor who said fuck police gets rewarded with a visit by President Barack Obama. Isn't that wonderful? More hypocrisy in our nation, but you're not going to hear about any of that. You're not going to hear the truth. You're just going to hear these jaded lies, or the continuous lies. Anyway, I got one. Excuse me about that. DailyMail.com, because I've been on for like 3 hours almost. Sarah Palin states in the West Wing, Trump says that Palin could have a position in his White House, but probably won't be his running mate, which would probably be a good idea because that already did not do too well for the last person who did that. As he boasts, her fans will do anything for her. Now, don't get me wrong. I love Sarah Palin. I think she's a very intelligent woman. It's just, people, if he does that, it's just not going to help his campaign, I wouldn't think. And it's nothing against her because I really do. She's a strong, that's one of the people I would put on a pedestal as far as a woman who actually does know her shit. Donald Trump told the Today Show that Sarah Palin could have a job in his administration. Palin, in the 2008 Republican VP nominee, endorsed him on Tuesday in Iowa. He said she probably wouldn't want a second go-around as a running mate, but certainly there'd be a role somewhere in the administration if she wanted. Trump and Palin will speak in an Oklahoma arena on Wednesday, which was just yesterday. See more of the latest on Donald Trump at the www.dailymail.com.uk/Trump. So literally this is yesterday's news at this point, just to give you a heads up. But it's still really cool to read. I have another one from Daily Mail. Muslim clerical says that, now this was like a joke, this story. This makes me question the Daily Mail. That whole thing that happened in Germany, those sex attacks were the victims were now here we go. This Germany attack on New Year's Eve, this Muslim clerk says that the attacks were the victims' fault because they wore perfume. This is no joke. This is the absolute truth. So those people that were like attacked, assaulted, these women, it was their fault for this happening. I swear this is what it says. It says Colin Amin blames the victims of New Year's Eve sex attacks. Sami Abu Yusuf said it was the girls' fault as they wore perfume. He said it's not surprising they were attacked because of their clothing. More than 520 alleged sexual assaults took place in the city of there was 520 alleged sexual assaults that took place on New Year's Eve. So this guy, again, one of these Muslims that we support so much said, because it does say Muslim cleric, basically blames the women for these sexual attacks because they wore perfume and because of the way they dressed. So there you go again, left side. There you go. You're the one who supports the war on women and equal rights for women, gays, and lesbians. But every story I read tonight on these Muslim radicals are the ones that say, quote unquote, it's okay to rape women, treat them as sex slaves. It is our right, according to that side, to kill homosexuals because they don't believe in they don't believe in homosexuals. So it's our right to throw them off the top of buildings or chop their heads off and other things. So, you leftists obviously have absolutely no clue what you're talking about. And these are the same people that you support over and over again. And then on top of it, you just lie about everything. So my question is, when is this going to stop? Alrighty, I do have one more story. I promise you I have one more story, and I'll be off there for tonight. Fox29.com, which would be local news for me, Walmart to give raise to more than 1 million workers. But I don't think it was around here, though, but this story is from Fox 29. It was by Fox 13, though, this story. Walmart announced Wednesday more than 1.2 million Walmart and Sam's Club employees will get a pay increase in February. The raise takes effect on February 20th and includes a higher wage for both current employees and starting employees. Walmart says the employees will start at $9 an hour and move up to $10 an hour after 6 months, or when they successfully complete the company's training program. Those who were hired before January 1st, 2016 will earn at least $10, and those earning more than $10 an hour will receive a pay increase in February as opposed to waiting for their anniversary date. Walmart says when the change goes into effect, the company average full-time hourly wage will be at $13.38 an hour, and the average part-time hourly wage will be at $10.58 an hour. The increased pay wages are part of the company's 2-year, $2.7 billion investment in workers, Walmart says. So if it's Walmart doing this, I don't have a problem with that. But if this is something that will be once again forced upon them, then I would have a problem. So I don't know. I think Walmart is definitely a big company who also does own Sam's Club. Hey, because I work for a company that pays me very well, so I don't mind seeing people getting paid more, but just as long as it's not being forced down their throats by the government saying, yeah, you have to pay this kind of money out, which is much better than $15 an hour. But it's my opinion, it might be just a matter of time before that happens. Anyway, I want to cut that as my last story because, once again, I've been on for so many hours. I really need just to get up and kind of move around. So thank you for those who, basically have listened to me tonight and tolerated my rant and rave and whatever. And hopefully you enjoyed my show once again. Hopefully, you will listen again. Let me just unlock my computer real quick so I can say my adios for tonight. Give me another minute. Alrighty, it's unlocking now again. I do appreciate everyone who has listened to me. There's some pauses, I know, and I apologize about that. But thank you for sticking with me if you are. And yes, I am signing off right now. I'm just taking my glass on my face so I can not get so bug-eyed. Just taking a breather real quick because I actually find where I can shut this down. Let me see if I can just push this pause. But thanks again. Thanks for listening to me if you are, and just tell others about me. This is iWalter sign off on this Thursday morning.